Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's the MTGO Creator Showdown. We've got another modern tournament to bring you for this, and I'm so excited to see it because Underworld Breach has been banned. And now there's tons of new decks that are available to play. I'm joined by Niall Joan this week. My name is Nathan Zamora, and Niall, I have seen so much of what you've done online, and now finally I'm excited to hear you rant about things directly in here.
Yeah, thank you. I am so glad to be here. I love commentating high-level Magic, and that's exactly what we're going to see today in the Magic the Gathering Online Creator Showdown. We've got some huge names here playing Modern. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, well, I did say it's a tournament, but it's a little bit different of a tournament than I'd say a typical one. So let's walk through that. How are they playing for this weekend? It is going to be 6 rounds, but those 6 rounds are no elimination. We're not cutting to a top 8, and they're not playing from there. It's going to be 6 rounds, and they're looking at their record to be standing at the top. From there, it will be like a typical tournament. It's best of 3 matches, it's Swiss seeding, and you're trying to win every single one of them, like you would a normal Magic event, sideboards, etc. But what are they playing for in this tournament? Well, it's prizing. You're hunting down a 4-2 or better record, which is one of the spots where elimination was eliminated. If you start at 0-2, you still have something to play for. If you start at 0-3, I would argue you still have something to play for. Pride, willfulness. You're trying to just knock out other people from the tournament. That's the way to go. But if you find yourself all the way at that first place, it's $1,250. That's the best record player from there. If you have the second best record, that's where you're going to be finding yourself at $750. Work your way all the way down to 4-2. You're taking home some play points. You're taking home some treasure chests. You can crack them open for a lot more play points and kind of free roll some tournaments for a bit. So that's really what they're battling for in this tournament. So we did say it's modern. It's a tournament. It's a little bit different, but coming into this modern event, Niall, Underworld Breach has been banned. The format has been cracked open. And while there's tons of new decks to be played, we asked you, Niall, what are your top 3 cards in Modern? If you had to pick them, what would they be and why?
Yeah, so these are more just personal favorites than what I think are the best in Modern, because if that's what I was looking at, we'd be looking at 3 MH3 cards for sure. But to start off, we've got Mishra's Bauble. To me, this is the heart and soul of the Modern format. I mean, just the Bauble fetch land interaction, so much skill expression, and a simple 0 mana artifact. I love this card. And then to put one little MH3 card in here, maybe my favorite MH3 card personally, Sink into Stupor. Just one of the most flexible blue cards we've seen in a while. I love it's a land when you need it to be a land. It is a counterspell sort of when you need it to be one. It's a bounce spell. It does it all. I love Sink into Stupor. But then one of the most gorgeous Magic arts of all time here on the end, Flicker Wisp. I love this guy. Beautiful little 3/1 flyer. That alone is just gorgeous. But then the, namesake flickering that it does enables some extremely powerful messed up stuff in the format, which is kind of the heart of the Blink deck that we've seen evolve a lot over the last year and really start to flourish recently.
Yeah, don't ask me what the original set symbol was on Flicker Wisp. It'll start to show my age a little bit here. When are we going to get the keyword flicker? That's what I'm wondering for it. But honestly, these are 3, I think, cards that really range a lot from the format. It's just things that happen, things that are standard to do, and things the way they go. But when we scroll from your top picks of your favorites and we go into the most played cards, I mean, my gosh, when we get here, we have a strong utility card that we're looking at in the center here with Consigned to Memory. But when you glance around that, this feels like it's just a modern Horizons constructed deck that's been put together from these cards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just 5 absurd Modern Horizons cards. This really goes to show the impact that those direct to Modern sets have. And some of the most pushed and messed up designs we've ever seen, and Consigned to Memory, a card that I love. The other 4, might have some different feelings about, but Consigned to Memory, that is a work of art.
I mean, I kind of look at the red and white cards here. I think each one individually is something I really enjoy. But then when I look at them all together, I go, well, this feels like a bit much in here. But there is something to be said about this, because while these are 4 super powerful Boros cards we're looking at, when we take that and move it into the most played decks, instead, this is where Modern, I think, starts to shine a little bit. All of these Boros cards are pushed into one single deck themselves. However, you take those and you push them across the format now, and you look at all the different decks that are there, and you start to find a lot of different depth for it. And I think that's really speaking to what Modern is when I see Consigned to Memory in the middle here. There's so many different decks, and they range from so many different effects, that what you have to look at is how many things do you have to check for, and what's this metagame like, and how many different things do you have to prepare for, because that suddenly is a wild range of cards.
Yeah. So if we look at the most played decks, we've got a Poor Oculus kind of representing the Reanimator decks, a lot of the Frog decks. So in Myco Spawn here, we've got the Eldrazi decks. Of course, we have Boros Energy front and center. Affinity after that, a deck that has really started to see a lot of play recently. And then Goryo's Vengeance. I mean, a bunch of different decks, as you said, a lot of diversity, but the sort of main deck, the lion's share of the meta, is Boros Energy. And I mean, even in this event, it's a little over a quarter of our contestants are playing Boros Energy. It is certainly the deck that all of these other decks are, their main game plan is to take care of Boros Energy, which kind of lets these graveyard-centric decks have a little bit more room to play because people aren't bringing as much main deck graveyard hate because they have to be so prepared for Boros.
Oh, how could you as well? If you mulligan and you have 2 cards in your opening hand that are focused on hitting on a graveyard, you run into a deck that plays a 2/1 on turn 1, and suddenly you're looking at a 5-card hand instead of a 7-card hand is what that'll often feel like. You have to be ready to take care of that, just like you said. But when you have, again, this range of cards in just the most played decks, this is still a pretty broad range that's taking place here. I would say that Goryo's Vengeance is really the one that kind of sneaks up here lately. And when I take a look at the far left, I see a Born Oculus. That's kind of sharing that point there on the left and the right. But the 3 decks in the center, this really feels like it's speaking to it. It's a deck that's really that super aggressive deck that has that strong mid-range push. It's a super aggressive deck that goes all in as quickly as possible. And then the Eldrazi deck, which tries to just sneak right ahead of that curve. It's not trying to play limbo. It's trying to jump over the hurdle instead. And so that really, to me, speaks to the big check marks that you have to take care of. And then what are the utilities on the side that you can make up for from there. So I just love seeing how that's going to function and how that interacts, because there's so much metagame for it. When there's this much Boros energy that's taking place, how well can you outguess the rest of the players and bring a deck that's truly going to outperform that? I think that was what's really speaking to a modern format. And then furthermore, in a small group of players like this, we don't have even 40 players this one. It's just underneath that. So this is a big feature of players that are coming through. How well can you outguess now a smaller field? Because you're not even having to run up against, round 12, round 13 players who have had those strong guesses of utility. So with that now, our first match of the day. This is our first match, but players are going into round 3. This is a big point of this right now, is we're getting to start to cherry pick this. And we have Shere Khan coming up first. And of course, as we said, Boros Energy. But now we're taking a look at this list. There are some standards that I think are here, but there's a lot of things that players also toy with, because I think you have probably like a 4 to 8 cards that you can maybe move back and forth, but that's going to depend on whether or not you want strength and stability, or whether you want something that's truly going to try and blow somebody out of the water.
Yeah, I think a big point where we see a lot of variance amongst Boros Energy decks is the 3-mana slot. I mean, 4 copies of Flage is obviously always there because that card's absurd, but the split between things like Seasoned Pyromancer, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Blood Moon, seeing that Shere Khan here decided to go with 3 Seasoned Pyromancers and a main deck Blood Moon, that is a very interesting decision point for this deck, and really kind of shows what they are respecting and also what they value versus the Seasoned Pyromancer Fable decision.
I mean, main deck Blood Moon. I mean, this is a card that I can always see played in almost every single format. A main deck Blood Moon. Like, this is a wild choice, I feel like, of trying to just get a 1 card and a 2 card down, like a 1-mana card, 2-mana card, and then you're trying to play Blood Moon and just lock them out? Like, that is a wild choice in this one, but it does make a lot of sense. Like, this is a card you only need to draw 1 of, but the second one is almost always dead. This is I feel like a brave choice when you come into a Boros deck.
Yeah, well, it's also open deckless, so maybe there's a little bit of a scare 'em tactic, right? The old put one counter spell in, so that way they always have to respect it.
Also the mulligan strategy for it as well. It's a good point. So as we roll into the opponent from here, this is a deck that I feel like comes up from time to time, and something that I'm always a little bit too scared to play for myself, and it's Mill. I feel like Mill has been a deck that has continued to be in Modern time after time, but it always feels like a deck that's like a favorite of somebody. This doesn't necessarily feel like a Modern staple. It feels like just a point of Modern where, you know, it's a sentence that's mentioned here and there in the booklet.
Yeah, I think Mill is one of those decks that performs better in tournaments than it does on, let's say, ladder or just, you know, more casual events where people are testing out a wider range of things. It's one of those decks that often pairs well into what people are doing in the meta, but is beatable by the more fringe decks. And as you said, the people who play Mill are usually die-hard Mill players and are extremely adept at the nuances to the deck. And people who play against Mill are less commonly adept at playing against it. So you kind of score these free points of people being unsure where and how they're supposed to interact with your deck.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm preparing for a tournament, I don't sit down and look at the top matchups and go, okay, now I need to practice against Mill. That's not really a thought that's in my head. I'm going to try to curve out and kill him real quick. But when I look at this right now, I'm feeling like with the open deck list, that Mill actually could be a deck that performs better. You mentioned this with Blood Moon. Maybe it's a scare him tactic. I'm looking at 4 Fatal Push and 4 Drown in the Lock, and you know you're up against Boros. Now I feel like I have a mulligan strategy that's very finely tuned for this. I'm a little bit less concerned with my opening hand of aggression and much more concerned with my opening hand of dealing with what my opponent has. So as we get into this one, it's going to be Xerac on the play here. As the turn 1 crab, the Mill has already started.
Yeah, and we can see there is a second crab in hand. So that's representing a lot. I mean, second crab and a fetch land represents an honestly absurd amount of Mill on turn 2.
No, it's only 12 right away. You're only losing 1/5 of your, I'm sorry, yeah, you're losing 20% of your deck on turn 1. That's not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, I would say. I'd say it's a bit. And I mean, we've got a lot of decisions here for Shere Khan because, I mean, this is kind of the dream hand for Boros Energy, right? You've got Pride, you've got Guide of Souls, you got Voice of Victory, but also you've got this Static Prison and you're looking at a crab. Is it something that you respect? And right now, Shere Khan's saying, no, I'm going to advance my game plan. I'm going to make it your problem to have to handle this in time.
I think this is about to be a bigger problem. So we don't see a crab from Xerac here. Xerac's going to favor taking care of what's on the board, is what it's looking like it's happening here. And this is truly, I think, speaks to what someone's thinking in the hand right now. You're saying I need to check what my opponent's doing rather than simply push what I have going on here. And that to me tells a story of how just a player thinks about the game. And to me, this feels so uninstinctual to play this and worry about Drown in the Lock versus worrying about a Hedron Crab and completely blowing my opponent out of the water. I feel like Xerac's thinking, I have enough Mill in hand right now. Let me check what's going on and make sure that I don't get blown out of the water instead.
Yeah, well, it is a question of, you know, how does Shere Khan win this game? And a big part of that is, you know, having this sort of nuts draw that we're seeing here as Voice of Victory starts to come down and being able to interact with that and stop the advancement of this board state is huge. And being able to Drown in the Lock that Voice of Victory slows Shere Khan down dramatically. And, you know, we've got plenty of time to mill these cards. And I really respect and appreciate Xerac's sort of you know, patience in the plays here.
Yeah, just truly understanding this. Undercity Sewers fetched out to make sure that you can continue to dig deeper into the deck as well, preordain in hand. This is a ton that's going on. I mean, you're so far into the deck already with this Mill deck that I feel like it's almost difficult for Shere Khan to really get footing and beat this game before Xerac is able to mill them out.
Yeah, and as we're seeing that Archive Trap in hand, as we're staring down a couple of fetch lands. Now, Shere Khan does not have to play a fetch land, so we will see if playing around Archive Trap is something that they are interested in, or if it's just a matter of, you know what, it is what it is. I think there is also something to be said about the fact that you know, against Boros Energy specifically, you're also putting Flage in their graveyard, right? Like you are putting Flage in there, you're putting enough cards in there to enable Flage to come out. That's not irrelevant. That matters.
Yeah. It's make sure you're strong enough. The last thing you need is for 3 damage blowing up a crab or your face and then attacking for 6 to end the game from there. That's a scary thought to have if you can't completely mill your opponent out. Yeah, so there's something to be said about that too, just the timing of it.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're seeing Shere Khan here take a bit of a think. I mean, a lot of options, right? We've got the Static Prison, we've got the Ocelot Pride. I think the big decision point here is, do you fetch now or do you just play out this mountain?
Do you ever fetch because of the idea of Archive Trap? I mean, this is a tough question, honestly. And this is exactly what you were speaking about too, was the familiarity with mill versus the familiarity against mill. This is not something I would instinctively just think about until I've played against this matchup once or twice, or perhaps played the deck myself. I would have snap fetched and not thought anything about it.
Yeah, and I mean, that really shows the level of play that we are seeing here, that Shere Khan did think about it and, you know, clearly thought quite a bit about it and knows that there's gonna have to, I mean, eventually one of these fetches is probably gonna have to be cracked, right?
Oh my gosh, it's another Tasha's.
Another Tasha's is, it's pretty intense. That's gonna be 17 cards exiled. We've got 13 cards left in deck. Elegant Parlor, though, means if we want to wait another turn, we can.
You don't have any cards left.
Can we afford to?
You know what a big part of this is how many lands you have left. This is one of those spots where you have to take your time. You don't have to, but if you're trying to play to win, like if your life depended on it here, you would have to count how much mana is left in your deck by what you've seen go away already. Like this is something that I would hate to have to count up here. And I'm pretty sure this just ends the game at this point. Shere Khan does not have the damage to win. Archive Trap is going to happen here because of the search. And then you have a Tasha's to follow this up. I think that's game.
Yeah, so Flage is going to come out. Yeah, Archive Trap's going to take us down to 0 cards in deck. Yeah, that's game. That is a quick game 1 for Ziriak. Very well played. I mean, Shere Khan as well, really doing everything possible to play around it, really taking their time on all these decisions. But, you know, when your opponent has the ability to just get rid of all the cards in your deck, like, what do you do?
You play an 80 card Boros energy deck. Here's the thing. I would guess that you probably have the powerhouse to actually do something like that. I just don't know why you would do something like that is kind of the thought. You know, if I'd say if Mill was the level of play that Boros energy was, you know, maybe it's one of those thoughts that creeps into your back of the mind, or at least to mine. I'm crazy like that though. When I look at the sideboards here, this is something that really starts to talk to me a bit as well, because it doesn't look like that Mill has brought a ton here to actually handle what Boros has brought to the table. And when I see something like that, that tells me, wait a second, your matchup feels to me then it might actually be pretty good in a situation like this. Like there's not really much to take out and there's not really much to put in. Is that just because Mill is just perfectly driving its own territory here? Or is this just because your matchup's pretty good?
Well, I think it's a thing of, it's not in the sideboard because it's already in the main deck. You know, like we've got 4 Fatal Push, we've got 4 Drown in the Lock, we've got 4 Surgical Extractions. You know, like we have all of these ways to deal with Boros energy. So then, you know, we've got a Toxic Deluge, a Meat Hook Massacre. You don't like need a whole lot more, I don't think. I mean, as we saw in that game, right? Like we just tore through that Boros energy deck, and that was all main deck.
Yeah, it's pick 1, pick 2, and then push them over after that. You know, there's not too many pegs that are holding up a ladder, I would say. It's a good point to have. I think that this is really affected so much too. When I sit down and watch game 1, this is so much affected by an open deck list. You know exactly what type of hand you need for a mulligan, and that changes so much of it. Like that is everything. So many times I've sat down with control decks and I go, do I need this removal spell in my hand? It'd be really nice to have a fourth land instead, or a third land instead. And instead, I run into a deck that goes, Island, go ahead. And you're like, I have this removal card in my hand. It just does nothing the entire game. That is so often a feeling that I've had. But this, the total opposite now. We look at this opening hand, Shere Khan's on the play, Ocelot Pride, and then suddenly it's Fatal Pushed. And that's already now one step back that you have taken as a Boros energy deck.
Yeah, but then we are seeing just another Ocelot Pride here. And, I think Blood Moon is one of the big ways that Boros Energy can sort of get over the mill deck, but it also looks like we kept a little bit of a sketchy one-lander, and we're going to need to be hitting land drops. There's one.
Respect, though, because I don't think there's any chance I would have mulliganed Ocelot Pride, discharge with a second Ocelot Pride in my hand. Like, that feels like you're making a mistake if you throw that one away.
Well, and the Blood Moon. I really think the Blood Moon is like a critical piece, because if we look at Shere Khan's sideboard, there's not a lot for mill, right? Like, obviously, like like you were saying earlier, not a deck that a lot of people are like, oh, and what's my mill plan? Like there's like, well, my plan is I won't see it, but Blood Moon, the one we have in the main deck, we have one additional one in the side, that can really, really mess up the mill deck. And we do not hit our land there, but we do hit an Ajani, which can really speed stuff up. I mean, if we need to, we can get rid of one of our own cats next turn. We can do a lot with this Ajani. If we hit a land, we are cruising. Yeah,
land is game over, I think. I think if you didn't draw land here, Ajani's probably the best card you could have drawn, though.
Yeah, Ajani's great. Ajani's great in this situation if you're drawing a spell. I mean, Voice of Victory is pretty nice as well.
Wow. This doesn't really do... It's a creature to play. I don't think that Zeriok can close the game from here. Am I missing something?
Voice of Victory advances the clock, by quite a bit, but also exposes you in a pretty big way to, Deluge, Meat Hook Massacre, those sorts of things. So it might be a thing that we want to... Might be a thing that we want to hold back a bit, because, we're going to make more cats. We're likely just killing next turn either way, especially if we draw our third land.
Shuts up
Blaze to
Archive
the face is really real. Yeah, it shuts off Archive Trap, but we're also not really searching right now.
Yeah.
So it'd really just be shutting off Archive Trap in case we draw a fetch land next turn. But if we draw, like next turn, we're killing, right? So you can get us down to 0 cards. Just not going to draw any more cards. No big deal. Yeah, you're dead. So really, the onus is now on Zeriok to answer this board. And I think the question for Shere Khan at the moment is, what do you play, and do you play anything? Do you swing out and then you flip your Ajani? Do you just slam this Voice of Victory and say, hey, if you've got a board wipe, congrats?
Flipping Ajani makes sense to me here because you have just a ton of red cards in hand.
For sure.
I think that your decisions, here's the thing, they're all kind of small, but they all matter a lot when they matter. And I feel like that is so much of Boros energy, is that it feels very natural because it's so powerful. But when you run into a situation like this, it's like, how can I accidentally cost myself the game?
Yeah, I think this is true of the modern format in general, as we're seeing Shere Khan go ahead and take the Ajani flip line pre-combat to go ahead and get the counters on all the creatures.
I wasn't thinking about it that way, I will say.
Yeah, I think this translates to maybe one more point of damage.
Wait a minute, what's underneath the Shell Dock? Archive?
Seeing an Archive Trap. So we're down to 3 cards. Oh, and then
the
cycling.
Oh my gosh!
That's it.
Whoa, Zeriak's done it! Oh my gosh!
Wow.
That is crazy! I wasn't thinking about that. Oh, the lone copy of Shelldock Isle won this game.
Yeah, that hideaway on the archive trap. I mean, that's all we needed. You know, that's all she wrote. And I mean, Shere Khan did everything they could. They had set up a situation where it was like, all right, well, you need to win this turn, or I'm going to win next turn. And just being one turn behind the mill deck is all it takes. It's all it takes.
That is actually insane. Shelldock Isle is a card that it's so good in all the cube formats. So I see it show up again and again and again. Outside of that, this is not a card I typically see played at all. It just kind of sits in a binder or it sits in a collection. I look at it and I go, one day I'm going to build a cube. And I don't know when that day is going to come, probably when I'm dead. But this is a card that literally just won a game because of the style of deck that you're playing. And that is so unreal. Again, this is like one of those tiny little things that matters. You put in one copy of Shelldock Isle, and that is literally the reason you just closed a match out. That is unbelievable.
You know, I would actually say I think the card that won that game for Zeriak was the turn 1 Fatal Push. Because if we imagine a world where that Ocelot Pride doesn't get pushed, that is an extra 6 damage over the course of those few turns. And Zeriak ended at 5.
Yeah.
So killing that one Ocelot Pride on turn 1 with Fatal Push is the reason that Zeriak was able to even get to the archive trap. And that just goes to show how prepared this mill deck is for Boros Synergy, you know, and how that main deck preparation sets them up to be able to Shelldock Isle kill you before you get to finish them off.
Wow. So that is the match that we have for match number 1. We're going to check and see if there's a backup that we have or how close we are to getting standings done at this point. So I'm trying to take a look at the standings and where everything is for the round in progress. And it's kind of looking like that is about wrapping things up for our round number 3. So with that, I think that we're ready to ship it over into our first break. It's going to be right back with it on our second match, but round number 4. And then we'll have something else that's coming into play. Hopefully we can find something that's quite as good as the mill match that we just watched there, because seeing that deck win at that point, that was pretty wild. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be right back with round number 2. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's the MTGO Creator Showdown. We just had our first match that we are showing of the tournament thus far, our third round of the day. I'm Nathan Zamora. I'm joined by Niall Joan. And Niall, we saw a pretty crazy twist of a match, Boros Energy versus Mill in our first one, with a little bit of an unexpected outcome, Mill completely blowing Boros out of the water. But now as we come into our second match of the day, round number 4, I'm excited to see this one as well. I feel like you have been cherry picking some fantastic matchups that we have coming up, and I can't wait to see it. Before we get into that, let's take a look at the standings, and I want you to talk about that match that we're going to be showing a little bit, as well as what we're going to have.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the standings here in a second, but I mean, it's really already been such an exciting event. And, you know, as you sort of just alluded to, it was our first round in the booth, but it was our player's third round. So Ziriak, our Mill player, is now 3-0, one of 4 players who are 3-0, which we will see in this breakdown presently. Now, a interesting thing to note, of the 4 3-0s, 2 of them are on Boros Energy. And then outside of that, we have our Mill player who we watched last round. And then we also have a Grixis Reanimator. So a couple of exciting decks up there in the undefeated slot. Now, looking at the 2 ones who are all still extremely live for some serious prizes, you know, we've got a lot of big names here. You know, we've got Corey B, a little bit of a legend in the booth himself. We've got Pygonzi, we've got Reed Duke. I mean, we've got just so many names to pick from here.
It's always the way that Magic ends up happening, is the more the rounds go on, the more the names that you recognize float their way to the top. They do play a lot of Magic, but they also win a lot of Magic as well. It's probably why they keep playing it so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this pans out, despite the fact that we have a lot of Boros Energy up there. Something to really account for that as well is when I look at Lucas, for instance, sitting at 3-0, he plays a lot of Boros Energy as well. And I would say that so far, of any of the Boros Energy matches I've watched a lot of it, because playing it, I lose a lot myself with it. I've tried to learn so much from him in particular of what he does, because his play is so clean. It feels like he sees the future sometimes when he's playing this deck. It's pretty crazy how well he does it. Corey, of course, sitting at 2-1. You know, like I said, he's been in the booth a couple times. I've cast alongside him. It's fun to see. Reed Duke always at 2-1, a player who will never ever play until you've delivered the final blow. He makes you do that. Kind of tells you what he would have been in the Knight era of real life back in the 1400s. For this match that we have coming up, I'm really looking at this one because Reanimator is a deck that I actually personally like. It's a deck that I love to see played. It's a deck that I love to play myself. It just has a unique feeling to it that you can't get anywhere else. And with BFG piloting it, this is really up his alley. It feels like every single time I see him play, no matter what, he's going to be playing something with blue and black registered on the list.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very cool deck. I think Psychic Frog is one of the more interesting cards to come out of MH3 from a just purely design standpoint. But, you know, Archon of Cruelty, Troll of Khazad-dûm, Abhorrent Oculus. These are all such great targets for the reanimation plan, and having stuff like Psychic Frog to enable it. Very, very powerful, very flexible deck with a sideboard that looks built for most things you could possibly go up against. So really like this list from BFG.
Yeah, knows what to cut, knows what to add in. Not a ton of tools, it's just tools when you need them, and, you know, hopefully when you need them, I guess, is probably a way to put that with it. I can't wait to see this deck piloted. I think BFG pilots really well. He'll make some courageous plays at times. Also, he's really a player where if you like watching big blowout kind of games, he's definitely one of the ones to take a look at. So as we look at the other side of this one, it's Boros Energy from Misplaced Ginger. And you were talking about how the 3-drop slot is really where one of the more flexible ones come in. And I would say that Fable of the Mirror Breaker being included in this, there's no Blood Moon. It's just, this list is not all over the place. You can just see a couple more of the cuts coming into place. 3 Ragavan instead of the 4 from last match, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This feels like a list that has been tuned and tinkered exactly to what Misplaced Ginger wants to play.
Yeah, I mean, Ginger plays a ton of Modern. You know, this is kind of his format, and I think it's very interesting to see how he ended up on this even split between Fable and Pyromancer. I mean, each one has its pros and its cons, and I think taking this sort of middle of the road approach keeps you flexible and prepared for many things. And, you know, as you were talking earlier, Boros Energy, obviously one of, if not the strongest decks in the format. But a lot of times you are winning on pretty small margins and does take some skilled piloting in a lot of situations. So really excited to see. I mean, Ginger's 3-0. He's clearly been piloting it well so far, but I just see how he is able to go up against this Grixis Reanimator package. I see some stuff in the sideboard that's going to help him out with that, but especially game one, interested to see what he does.
I wanted to ask you specifically about the Seasoned Pyromancer versus Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Which one would you be on the side of, and why is that?
I am unfortunately so extremely biased in this because Fable happens to be one of my favorite Magic cards of all time. So I don't think I can make a sane and you know, unbiased decision on that. I think in my heart of hearts, I would rather have some Pyromancers, but I think I love Fable too much to cut it.
Feels
and
like
here we go,
every
getting
decision
right into it. And Ginger, what a start here with the turn one Guide of Souls and a couple of Ajani's and Arena of Glory. I mean, this is, you know, we might get to see the play Ajani, sacrifice Ajani to flip Ajani line here from Ginger next turn.
It is one of the, I'd say, more wild ones that ends up coming up here. And for BFG, it feels like this hand, you look at this opening hand and you're like, oh, I'm good to go. But then you get through this opening hand and you go, well, wait a second. Because you're going second, suddenly Misplaced Ginger feels like he's got the world at his fingertips right now. This is going to be, I think, a tough one for BFG to walk away with, because he's going to be able to push back quite a bit, but I don't know if his pushback is going to be quite enough. Is sort of my thought here. Now, Misplaced Ginger has missed again on drawing a card that's going to help deal with Oculus. So I think that when you put that in perspective now, BFG is going to walk away with this one. It's just, you put all the chips in the center of the table, you hope that Misplaced Ginger can't answer it, and suddenly it's paying off.
Yeah, I mean, he's not without options here. You know, as talked about, I think the really tricky thing is just like none of the options are exceptional, and Oculus is just so strong. I like what Ginger's doing here. Just throw 2 damage across and give BFG the choice. Hey, do you want to give me a free Ajani flip? BFG declines, and now we are gonna maybe see. Oh yeah, here we go. Here is the play Ajani, sack Ajani, flip Ajani.
This is like the Undertaker versus Undertaker match. Which one's the real one?
Oh, that's the fun thing. They're all the real one.
Honestly, this play from Misplaced Ginger is really keen as well, because it's not just the Ajani part of it, but also, you know, putting something in the way so that BFG perhaps has to think about risking something. Like, you know, if you block with Oculus here, suddenly, I know that Galvanic Discharge can deal with it anyway, but you could be left with, you know, 2 left over and flipping your opponent's Johnny for him. This is like, it's kind of just a free 2 damage that I think is a little bit harder to look at than perhaps you would normally see here. So this is, I think, a pretty heads-up play for Misplaced Ginger to get this 2 damage ahead of time.
Yeah, well, and the Ragavan really was such a critical part of that turn of, you know, just being able to have the red permanent for a Johnny. And, you know, Ginger kind of had BFG in a little bit of a checkmate position, because even if you do block the cat, that's a free flip. Like the other Johnny, we end up in the same spot. But going back over to BFG now, who also has no shortage of options. So we're going to see Emperor of Bones take the Ajani from Ginger's graveyard.
Gosh, Ajani is so good.
Another Guide of Souls for Ginger.
Oh my.
Got the Fatal Push in hand for BFG. What a sick attack. We've got 7 energy. We've got 2 Guide of Souls triggers. First one, jumping itself. Second one, jumping the Ragavan. And that is where the Fatal Push is going to come down.
Yeah. Time gives everything there, but it's kind of tough to look at this again and just be like, oh, well, this is going to be clean. Like, I feel like so much got cost here from misplaced Ginger, but again, it ends up all being unchecked at the end of the day. BFG has to shove everything in the middle and just hope that it works. That's the nature of a Reanimator deck. There is nuances to it, like the timing you just saw, but right now there's just too much on Ginger's side of the board, I think, to really deal with it at this point. Like, we need to sweep the board. We need to deal with the Johnny. We need to find pressure so that he doesn't have time to get out of it. Like, there's just way too much going on.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot to deal with as we're going to see the Arena of Glory come down. Ginger, hellbent. BFG knows that kind of just do whatever he wants this turn. That's going to be Archon of Cruelty under the Emperor of Bones. Are we going to see the Adapt? We are. That's going to bring out the Archon. Very heads up from Ginger to make sure, you know, dump the hand. Archon's in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And now this Thoughtseize, just a dead card.
That's just the way I feel about Thoughtseize in general. I despise Thoughtseize.
Archon getting in, taking Ginger down to 20 life.
The Archon drain, pretty big deal here as well.
Yeah, very big.
Psychic Frog joins. Psychic Frog's... Oh my gosh.
A Thraben Charm is a huge pull.
My gosh. That is one of the draws that you can pick. And honestly, I think this is a good time to pick it because if you draw this card later on, it's not going to do anything. You draw the card right now, and I think its timing is pretty spot on.
Yeah, but the timing of the card is very specific just in when you are casting it and what you are casting it on. So really interested to see what Ginger's going to do here. Like, we're swinging with a guide and a cat. We're presumably jumping the cat that we're attacking with. Like, that is the plan. And I think Ginger is maybe trying to bait a block from this frog. Get him to get some stuff out of the graveyard, discard some cards from hand, and then get the Thraben Charm.
Yeah, I think getting the discards from hand is where the plan is for Ginger.
This is the thing that I think is so fun about Psychic Frog is it feels like such a gamble in situations like this to try and, you know, you commit so much to this frog.
It's everything. I don't know why these situations feel so good to me. I guess they feel so good to me when it's not an actual all-in, like the pseudo all-in feels good.
Yeah. And I mean, you're really just hoping, hey, maybe he didn't draw one of the cards that deals with this. And you know what? He sure did. We've got plenty to get this Oculus out. Is certainly relevant, but I mean, from here, Ginger has a decent number of options. I mean, lots of cards could be drawn here that would do quite a bit. I mean, anything that puts creatures into play, and a Johnny would be enormous. Marsh Flats, that one's a little tough. That one's a little tough, but we can probably get a Surveil land out of this. You know, it's just a matter of time. But the Abhorrent Oculus, that is generating a ton of value for.
Yeah, Oculus doesn't really give you a ton of time. I think that's one of the issues I have playing against this card is that I was like, I'll be fine. Oh my, that's another good one.
Yeah, another Emperor of Bones.
Holy.
Decent. Well, what's even left in graveyards? Kind of hard to. Is that an Oculus that we're picking up?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
I guess the question here from BFG is going to be, aggression? Like, where does it actually come from? What is your plan? It's tough to attack with an Oculus right now because you're trading an Oculus for one flying creature on your opponent's side that now opens up the window.
Oh, you just cannot attack with the Oculus right now.
Yeah,
like,
it's just actual time.
It's way too risky. I mean, it's exactly what BFG is doing, right? Go to the end step, activate Emperor of Bones, so you get a second Oculus trigger. Yeah, right now we are just digging for something to flip. We've got the mana to flip these creatures. Fable of the Mirror Breaker from Ginger. This is a pretty decent one. We're gonna get a couple, gonna gain some life. We're gonna get some energy. Next turn, we're gonna get some rummaging if we need it. And I mean, Fable unto itself represents a win condition, but there's also no telling what BFG has under these manifest creatures.
Yep. Brick on the draw for BFG.
Yeah,
oh, it's not a total brick though.
Yeah, that's why we got Faithless Looting in here. Oh, Psychic Frog and Persist as the draws. Those are pretty huge.
Gonna hang on to Persist. Don't blame him. Now are we looking at a spot where maybe some attacks can exist?
Yeah,
there's so much going on.
Definitely start to. But we also like, so Ginger is at 2 energy. And any creature, and remember we get 2 looks, right? So any creature is representing a 3rd attacker. And the only way we could block, and Voice of Victory, that will certainly do it. Very interested to see if Ginger wants to keep this. I imagine he will, but we'll see.
Tough one to pitch away.
He's going to keep it. And we have the Arena of Glory to bring it in with haste. So that's going to be, what, 6 energy?
Yeah.
For Ginger. So we're actually going to get to attack with, this might just be lethal. Like, if one of these manifest creatures is a frog, then we can block 2. We can block 2 of these flyers. So if we block the 2 4s, then we go down to 1. So we need one of these to be a frog. Although, because then we just have three things on the ground. Yeah, so we need exactly a frog, and then to just block everything else.
You don't have mana for Oculus. 2 frogs are gone, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, a couple of frogs are gone. How many are in the deck?
4?
4, yeah.
I don't believe that BFG is a 2 frog or a 3 frog player. I believe that would be against the conscript.
Yep, and here it is.
It's going in. All right. What?
Yeah, this is a very, very delicate moment in the game where who you attack with, who you jump, all of these choices matter a lot. Like Ginger kind of stuck on this choice of whether or not to go ahead and attack with the Guide of Souls. I think trying to think ahead a little bit and think about who's getting the counters.
Yeah. I think a small question is, let's say that you get stifled here, like something happens. Are you lethal on the backswing? And I think that's really what Ginger was counting up with all this is.
You're gaining so much life, you know, like you're gaining just an absurd amount of life. But also, you know, BFG is representing a ton of damage. Yep, so we got 2 4 damage creatures in the air. All right, that is a frog flip.
Gosh!
That is a frog flip.
Way!
That is what we needed. Now that frog is not long for this world, but that frog is gonna keep us in the game.
Oh my gosh.
But this is, you know, we have to block the 2 4s.
Means the Guide of Souls stick around.
Means the Guide of Souls stick around. Also, BFG goes to 1.
Let's go to 1, and you have Persist for Archon of Cruelty.
Got Persist for the Archon.
And then Fable's flipping.
Fable flips next turn. That's going to be 2 more energy, 2 more life.
It's pretty far from over. There's still a lot going on.
Oh, absolutely. It is far from over. I mean, just on the board, we have
BFG is
17.
literally
we have
1 damage
20
short?
damage.
BFG is, I think, literally 1 damage short. If this is 22, right?
So we're persisting the Emperor of Bones. Oh, this is going to give the Archon haste.
This is lethal then.
Oh, very nice line from BFG. I did not see that there was an Emperor of Bones in the graveyard.
That's very heads up. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This'll do it. Ooh.
Oculus is a heck of a card.
Smallest of margins. The smallest of margins.
Wow. Oh, Oculus put so much block and then counterattack on the board that you're able to pick the Archon of Cruelty out of the board as a temporary instead of as a permanent. And that's what's able to win the game from that. That is so small of an effect that ends up being such a big deal there. And that's feel like so much of that is on the back of Oculus. Just creature after creature after creature after creature. Found the Psychic Frog to stay alive, and then found the extra damage on the counter attack. That is something that I feel like you just cannot get from any other card in Magic as quickly as a board Oculus is able to put it on the table.
Yeah, I mean, that was very incredible to watch. I mean, both players playing such tight Magic, you know, really like leaving nothing on the table, doing everything they're supposed to be doing, and BFG taking it down with 1 life point remaining. And, you know, that's the only one that really matters.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, if you're hanging on by a thread, as long as the thread's strong enough, that's really what counts. When I look over at the sideboards for this now, this is where I think quite a bit comes into play for this, because on BFG's side of things, it feels like there's a couple utility cards that you get to bring in here and have some effect for it. When I look over at Misplaced Ginger's side of the board, I feel like there are some complete blowout options that are available. You can't afford to have too many of them in the sideboard, but I look at Celestial Purge, which is a card where timing matters for everything, and then again, Blood Moon. I think a card that just really always matters, but the question is, when does it matter and how does it matter? It's a card I feel like, because it's just like nothing on its own, it's really tough to justify putting it in a main deck, especially in a multiple effect. Coming on to game number 2, on the play for Misplaced Ginger, has the 1-drop of this, and then Celestial Purge right away. This is, again, the card that I feel like can completely turn the tables of everything that BFG has invested into part of the game plan.
This is a very strong start for Ginger, and BFG does not really have the hand that answers it. This, I mean, just looking at the 2 hands, looking at the information we have, this looks very good for Ginger. Oculus is a nice draw for sure.
Beats the Celestial Purge as well.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much BFG is really respecting it. Oh, drawing into Archon. I mean,
my gosh.
Spoiled for choice right now.
What?
It looks like Oculus getting unearthed. And I mean, so immediately putting Ginger on the back foot.
No energy in hand. It's just the galvanic discharge.
Yeah,
You need
no
like
energy in hand.
slight bit more for this to take over.
All right, so we're gonna play out the Arid Mace. Can get us some surveil.
I'm worried.
Could just be getting like a, planes or something. Yep, this is good preparation for Blood Moon. I think maybe our hand cam is frozen because the Arid Mesa never left, but we got the Static Prison. Static Prison takes care of the flipped creature, and that gives us the energy we need for the discharge, which means Ginger gets to make just a ridiculous attack. Has the City's Blessing, is going to get another treasure token, is going to get the warrior tokens, is going to get the cat tokens. What a board.
A hand
Harvester of Misery, though. Hold on. But BFG stuck on 2 lands. At a pretty awkward time to be stuck on 2 lands. We've got
3.
the swamp cycling from the troll.
Can Archon claw back from this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Voice of Victory isn't players can't cast spells on your opponent's turn. It's your opponent can't cast spells on your turn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
That is going to be a quick win. That Static Prison, huge.
Yeah,
for
that was
Ginger.
That is a huge draw. A really unfortunate time to have the hand frozen at that point. That draw, that changed everything. You draw the card, you're like, oh, okay, let's go to the next one. Like that is exactly what that was, and that shows, I think, exactly why Boros Energy is such a strong deck. Is that just almost any time you leave stuff out as an aggressive option for your opponent, one draw changes the game. And decks like that always make their way towards the top, because what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't stop what your opponent draws pretty much at any point in the game. That requires so much investment that it's a ridiculous thought to think about in a tournament setting. Static Prison, game over. And that to me is just completely the reason why you would play a deck like this, is that put stuff out, your opponent doesn't do something, take care of their blocker, game over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deck that applies so much pressure onto its opponents that it kind of says to your opponent, you need to draw perfectly. But me as the Boros Energy player, I don't need to draw perfectly. I just need to draw well. And that puts you so much on the back foot playing against the Boros Energy deck that it, like you said, rises to the top very easily in the meta. And so many of the cards are just so pushed in their power level that you're just kind of always drawing gas.
Yeah. I look at going into game number 2 now, and I'm curious, does this change any of the game plan that Ginger's going to have going into the game, being on the draw instead of being on the play? So many times I felt like that my sideboard plan will change whether I'm on the play or the draw, because it's like, do I have time to make this play or not? And I'm looking at it right now. I don't think it's going to be the case. Really, I'd say my biggest question is Ghost Vacuum from the sideboard of Misplaced Ginger. Like, how willing are you to bring in 2 copies of Ghost Vacuum against this deck?
Well, that was a pretty big Faithless Looting whiff for BFG starting off. I mean, I can't really see the graveyard. I don't think we have anything. I think it was mostly like lands and Faithless Looting.
Yeah, that's a big brick on that first Faithless Looting for sure.
Yeah, and now, we get to Surveil here. We've got ways to deal with the frog. We've got Blood Moon. We've got a Johnny.
And it's getting better, it feels like, for Ginger's side. BFG, I feel like, is really protected from a Blood Moon here, though. Drawing Swamp and drawing Island on the natural side of things. Like, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, certainly helps, especially as, Blood Moon's just going to turn that Blood Crypt into the mountain that we need for our Grixis deck. So it's pretty nice there.
Ooh, this is also kind of a question here for BFG, I think, is taking out one of the creatures right now versus waiting.
Yeah, I think waiting is reasonable. Okay, so we're gonna jump the frog. This is gonna draw us a card. Yeah, Ginger. Not a lot of great ways to play against this Fatal Push. So we're going straight into the Goblin Bombardment. This is probably going to call for a Fatal Push onto a Johnny in response, so we can keep the flip from happening. I suppose we can just do it when the cat gets sacrificed. Respond to the Ajani trigger, right?
Yeah, this is, again, like another little tough one. I feel like this is pretty heads up again from BFG as well. Like maybe you can pull some tempo from the board. Like misplaced Ginger, say the cat attacks, the 2-1. Let's say that that trade happens, and now Ginger wants to try and flip. Suddenly you have a Fatal Push to pull it away from the board. Like there's a chance you could fully clear the board here.
Yeah, it's tricky now. Letting the Goblin Bombardment resolve makes the timing very strange. Also, the fact that this fetch land is, as of right now, uncracked affects the timing quite a bit, because now it's not even a thing of like, oh, I can discharge my own thing, and you know, like there's no like sequence of things here. But yeah, I think attacking with the Cat Warrior token makes a good deal of sense. But I mean, this is one of those moments, I think, where these are the kind of moments that cause people to play Boros Energy and then be like, what the heck? I thought this was the best deck. Why am I losing? And it's because stuff like this is actually like pretty complicated. And again, the margins are so narrow. I mean, we saw BFG win with 1 life point in game 1. You have to pilot these moments so well to end up 3-0 in an event like this, like Ginger has.
Everything feels so close right now.
Yeah, BFG is kind of flooding. It's crazy because we've played 2 Faithless Lootings.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty reasonable way out of this, at least.
Yeah, I mean, neither player is in a bad position.
Just jump the frog again. I guess that depends on whether or not you have Oculus on top. Like if you had Oculus on top, suddenly jumping the frog, I can see a cost to it. Ooh, he's gonna Fatal Push now.
Very interesting.
Why now? Oh, he wants to steal the... Wants to steal it with Emperor?
It wouldn't have anything to steal.
He doesn't have any mana, yeah.
Well, and also, like, we can just sacrifice the cat token.
Yeah, and you can't protect the frog here. You discard your hand, and then bombardment takes place.
Yeah.
And then the flip happens. Oh no.
Yeah, this is a
very
disaster. Good for Ginger. This is very good for Ginger. We get to do our bombardment. We get to take care of the frog. We have chewed through so many of BFG's resources in a single turn. And BFG's turn. Now we can swing at this Ajani for 2. We can swing at Ginger for 2. But now, like, Blood Moon's gonna come down. Which, again, who knows how much it's even gonna matter. Seasoned Pyromancer is nice. Another Ajani is really good.
It's just creatures.
Yeah.
Just put things in play.
Make a cat, destroy your Emperor of Bones.
Yeah, it's looking kind of rough.
This is very
That's
tough.
not it. Yeah.
Fatal Push just like does not do very much here.
I am perhaps seeing a game number 3.
Isn't this game number 3?
Is this game number 3?
Because didn't BFG win the first one,
right.
and then Ginger won? Yeah. I think we're
I
seeing
am
a
in fact
4-0
seeing a game number
misplaced.
3. Yeah.
You are, believe it or not, you're witnessing it.
Yeah, game number 2 is so fast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Faithless Looting. Flashback from the graveyard. Oculus, Harvester of Misery. Keeping Oculus.
Yeah, how do you deflect this attack?
I mean, you're gonna get hit for so much.
I just don't think it's there.
Yeah, I mean, try to do the math. Like, does Ginger just have it next turn anyway?
Oh, there's also the bombardment in play.
Yeah, well, there's the bombardment. There's another Ajani.
Yeah, how do you, there's no stepping away from this.
You can get like hit by 3 Ajani pings this turn.
Yeah, like this is the arena. It's life or death.
Yeah, I think this is just game. Yep, here's another one. Wow. I mean, a Johnny. Give it up. Give it up for a Johnny. What a card.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, this is wild.
Disgusting. So disgusting.
The thing about it is every time I see this deck though, I think to myself, is it the Ajani that's really doing this, or is it all the cards that are lifting Ajani up? And I get that
Ajani's one of the
together.
cards. Yeah, like
It's just
when we looked at that most played cards at the start of the stream, 4 of the 5 of them were Boros Energy cards, and all 4 of those cards are absurd. They're all absurd, and having them all work together in the same deck is just, all of the parts are already incredible, and then the deck is somehow greater than the sum of its parts. It's wild. It's wild that cards can be this strong and play so nicely together.
It really is. And when I look at that matchup seated there, something that I really look at is what was the misstep, if there was one, from BFG's side. Like, this match was so close in some of the spots that were there. It's like that Psychic Frog turn, that was such a huge turn to pull everything away from it. Like, is there a reason to keep a land in hand instead in a spot like that? Like, everything feels so close when you cut the margins.
I think it's, again, extremely complex, and I think there is very strong argument to be made for 100 different plays in that game. I think, where the players ended up is reasonable, but if it were me, if I were the BFG, I would probably be kicking myself for not just casting that Fatal Push as the Goblin Bombardment was coming down. As soon as that bombardment resolved, playing Fatal Push became so much harder. And then the turn that really turned the tide was when we jumped the frog, we attacked, and then we cast the Fatal Push and just got blown out by the Goblin Bombardment of Johnny, all this stuff. We basically said, hey, what if we discard 5 cards and give Ginger a Planeswalker? And that is, how do you come back from that?
Well, I guess the answer is you don't, because I guess you just come back from in next round of it. It's kind of what we're going to do here is we have all our rounds getting finished up right now. Our backup match and our main match are finished as well. And so with that, now there's gonna be players who are sitting at 4-0 for the record, and then we'll see what the rest of them are when we come back from this. So got to take a quick break, and when we do, we're gonna be jumping into round number 5, our 3rd broadcast match of the day. Take care. Mora. I'm joined by Niall Joan. And Niall, we just got to have a glimpse of exactly what Boros Energy is able to accomplish as we rolled through our round number 4 of the day. And now coming into round number 5, I think we might get to see a little bit more of that. I want to know your thoughts on the tournament so far, though. We've seen a lot of classic matchups, I think, that have come through here, but we've also seen some really heads-up plays. I'm looking for something that you want to highlight so far from what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, as I said sort of at the top of the stream, I really love watching and commentating high-level, highly skilled Magic, and I think that's exactly what we've been seeing all day long. I mean, we're seeing a lot of Boros Energy, yes, and we're definitely about to see some more, but we have seen extremely skilled pilots of Boros Energy, which takes it to a very interesting and sort of fun to watch place where, you know, these decision points they seem so small and so easy to make are actually extremely complex and have a ton of depth to them and dictate the entirety of a match, and we're watching people navigate them beautifully. So I can't wait to see some more of that.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically speaking, you could spin a wheel and land on the right play in Magic, but to do that turn after turn after turn after turn, that's something that's not really going to happen. You know, we're looking at, you know, billions, trillions to one at a spot like that. So I am really excited to see how this next matchup plays out, because we're looking at Lucas versus Ginger as we come into our next one. We do need to take a look at the standings when they are ready, though, and see how they landed at this point, because every single time we get to the top of these, it feels like there's another Boros Energy player that's getting there. But every single time you can look at the history of the player and see that they're a big Boros Energy player as well. You know, it's not like you just pick up the deck, shuffle it, and suddenly you find yourself with a 4-0 or a 5-0 record. It, like you said, it takes that little nuanced play to it. And that was something that I experienced as well. As a player who loves to play aggressive decks, there's been plenty of times in Magic history where you can pilot it based purely off instinct. Once you get to the power level, though, that's where so much of it changes. And I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. Lucas sitting at 4-0, Ginger sitting at 4-0. Guess what? They're two big Boros energy players, and both of them are the only undefeated ones we're seeing thus far.
Yeah, the two undefeated players, both Boros Energy, both, highly skilled players. I mean, I know for a fact Ginger is just playing constantly. Like, he is really grinding, and he knows the format, he knows the deck, and we really got to see that on display in his last match. But in the 3-1 territory, who are all, very, very well positioned for serious prizes, we also have a large variety of decks and a ton of extremely skilled players. So excited to see how this round shakes out, where we will have one 5-0 player and then suddenly many more people with 4 wins under their belt.
I'm looking at the images alongside the names, and I look at place 8 and place 9, Matthias and Reed Duke. It looks like that they're taking headshots for like an arena fight. Is the two pictures I see when I come down to this point. I'm curious to see who they're playing as they match alongside of it. As you look all the way down to 2s, you're still taking home prizes if you make it to a 4-2 record. So still something to battle for at that spot. I'm looking at Corey. Corey's been on the show a couple times, casted alongside him. Disgruntled Elk, a player I've seen a couple times on Twitch as well. All the way back up until you get to that 3 loss point, you have an actual prize to battle for that you get to take home. So there's no reason to just let it go if you're at that 2 loss point. You got to keep playing on. It's the whole purpose of a tournament. What's the best record you can put together from a spot like that? So now moving into our 4-0 match, the players who are actively hunting down that first place prize right now, Lucas and Misplaced Ginger. This is a matchup that I personally am looking forward to seeing, because it's not just a matter of Boros Energy versus Boros Energy. This is a matter of both of these players look like they're bringing pretty identical lists to the table as well. And that's not necessarily the simplest thing to have happen when you have that flexibility in the 3-drop slot and in a couple of your utility slots as well. 3 Voice of Victory is something that kind of feels like it's slowly crept into this list.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just works so well for everything that Boros wants to do. I mean, who doesn't love saying your opponent can't cast spells during your turn? Just being able to throw down a creature and be like, okay, great, I can breathe, I can, kind of take this turn a little easier. But the Mobilize 2 being so critical. I mean, 2 creatures coming in triggering Guide of Souls, 2 creatures who are tokens getting duplicated by Ocelot Pride. The value from Voice of Victory for this deck is just incredible. And then even without that Goblin Bombardment, the creatures are going away anyway. Why not get 2 extra points of damage out of them? It's so much power. It's incredible.
I think back to the hero of Bladehold, and again, showing my age here, and how that card was such a staple at the time that it was in standard. Voice of Victory, half cost for the effective point of the card, the create creatures for it. You asked who doesn't like saying your opponent can't cast spells during your turn. Me, when I pick up their card and I read it. So like 2 Seasoned Pyromancers, 2 Fables. And when you take a look at the other side of the table, we got to saw Misplaced Ginger in the last round. We're gonna get to see him again. I look at these lists and I go, are these 2 practicing alongside each other here? The really only difference is what fetch lands they're using to find their Arid Mesas. I'm sorry, to find their Elegant Parlors and their Sacred Foundries.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a decent chance that there's some, knowledge sharing here, but also could just be a thing of, very skilled players who play a lot end up in similar conclusions. Like they're experiencing the exact same meta, they're playing the same format, and they're obviously both very skilled. So, coming to these decision points, I think makes a lot of sense.
It makes total sense to me. This is a deck that's been so refined during its time playing as well. Not really much of a mystery that players are landing on these super powerful choices, and specifically why they're here as well. What cards you have in the deck is also affected by what cards you choose in your sideboard. The cards that you choose in your sideboard, you intend to take out versus certain matchups, or perhaps you intend to take out some of the copies, not necessarily all of them. That's a big part of building a deck list when we're talking about the goal, specifically trying to win the tournament. So with that now, once we roll into this matchup, this is also a big deal. Who's playing first and who's playing second? That can dramatically change the way that the game plan is going to go, because it's not just as simple as, well, look for good hand, put good creatures down. If your opponent's doing that exact same thing, you have to find a way to deflect that attack and then attack over it, or take a back step and then hope that you land that one big uppercut from a spot like that. It's not as easy as it seems like, and it's also not necessarily as difficult as it looks like. Well, card quality obviously affects it, but your mulligan quality, I think, is really the big deal here.
Yeah, the play draw is really important. Mulligans are really important, but also with two players who know their own deck inside and out and are the skilled and thus know their opponent's deck inside and out, we start to get to the interesting point in competitive Magic where we ascend beyond just the level 1 thinking of, you know, oh, I'm sideboarding, I bring in this against Boros energy, and you start to get to the level 2 thinking of, I know this is what I do, and I know my opponent knows this is what I do. So now, how do I play around that? How do I make my decisions different? Because, you know, we're both on the same page about how this is supposed to play out. And you get to start to bend and break normal heuristics and rules, and that's where something really beautiful and amazing happens. So hoping we get to see some of that advanced Boros energy gameplay.
You know what I know, what you know, what I know. And now what?
Whoa, and what a start we've got for Ginger here with Johnny and Ocelot Pride, and oh my.
Yeah, getting the matchup going a turn and a half in, and we're seeing the difference of, you know, one player having the 1 and the 2, and the other player having a wait and a 1. Elegant Parlor was the turn 1 for Lucas, and now how much can they get done? Because this is a Flage right away, and that speaks. I mean, this is a mountain of power now for Misplaced Ginger, where not only does Lucas have to find a way to you know, overcome this, but he's got to find a way to last through a Flage that's going to be hitting.
Yeah, this is tricky. I mean, the discharge on the Ajani is very nice, but the Flage is a very big deal, and Lucas is extremely on the back foot here, and it's really just a matter of time. Really just a matter of time that that Flage comes back, and we've got the Arena of Glory already. But here is Lucas with a Flage of his own, and notably, very importantly, Lucas many more cards in the graveyard than Ginger.
Oh yeah. Notably, also
Goblin Bombardment.
Ooh, that's a big one. I was going to say notably the inferior version of the Flage that I believe Lucas is playing. I am a traditional card frame player.
I don't know. I think it's kind of nice, but let's see. We don't have
Static Prison.
We're not bringing the Flage out this turn. Static Prison on the Goblin Bombardment, but you know, we with Caster Vision know that Ginger's also got a Static Prison of his own up his sleeve. And here's another Ocelot Pride.
Static Prison with the Buell of the guide as well. It's not just as simple as Static Prison. It's, oh, the Static Prison's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, Static Prison onto Static Prison. We get our Goblin Bombardment back. I mean, this is disgusting.
Yeah, this is a big yikes. I am having trouble seeing Lucas step back from this one easily. But it's not impossible.
I think it's pretty close to being wrapped up. There's not a lot of like great things that can happen here. You know, you can try to block one of these cats. Ginger's never letting you flip. Ginger's gonna deal a bunch of damage, and then next turn we just always have like Goblin Bombardment my whole board away, haste and a Flage available. And yeah, as we see, making the block onto Guide of Souls, and then just, all right, cool, I'll sacrifice it. Your cat doesn't get to die.
Yeah.
And now I've got 4 damage coming to your face. That's huge.
You got to catch those little things like that, but if you're seasoned with the deck, again, it's pretty easy to catch those little things like that. It doesn't become such a difficult place, that spot. So I think the big one there is that Lucas being on the back foot with not really a turn 1. It's a turn 1 of Scry. And when that's your turn one, you don't really accomplish anything when your opponent's got the heavy hitters. Being able to generate creatures on turn one as well. Like, it's not just Guided Souls, it was actually put more stuff into play. I feel like that's really where that staple comes in. It goes, you didn't check this.
Yeah,
And that's
I mean,
kind of just the end of it.
he was definitely on the back foot the whole time, and that's really hard to come back from against Boros Energy. But also, that static prison was such a big deal. You know, Ginger being able to get back the Goblin Bombardment. I can totally see a world where if Ginger doesn't have that, Lucas is able to stabilize and get through it. I mean, we had the Flage coming back, we had, you know, all of these things, and the Goblin Bombardment was kind of the linchpin for Ginger there.
Yeah. And then when I look at the sideboard here, there's not really like a ton that happens, I think, out of the sideboard for these two decks. You know, it's a lot of like staple pickups that you have to try and close out the game very easily if you're ahead. But for Boros Energy, it feels like so often that the deck can go back and forth on each side of the matchup. When you look at the sideboard on both sides, what are you seeing being brought in here? Because again, these are pretty much identical lists outside of, you know, what fetch lands they're using.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Wrath the Skies is a big one. Wear Tear, I think, is an extremely important card in the matchup. Ghost Vacuum can even be important, Flage being such a big deal. Very interested to see how both these players have decided to board here, as we're seeing a pretty incredible opening hand for Lucas here. And I think for Ginger, you know, obviously a less explosive hand. However, I think this is a very nice on the draw hand.
Lucas even bringing in Celestial.
We can respond to this Johnny if we need to.
Yeah.
Having the Fable on 3 is very nice.
Wow. It's a big test right away.
Yeah, well, do you want to give Lucas a cat, or do you want to give Lucas a planeswalker who gives Lucas a cat?
Yeah, Thraben Charm does not take care of planeswalkers.
Yeah, and quite a start. Now, Johnny is a nice pickup for Ginger. Interested to see if he is on. I mean, he's got so many ways he can go from here, right? Like, you can play out the Ajani, you can play the Bombardment, you can play the Thraben Charm. I think it's probably between Thraben Charm and Ajani, but really, this is the moment where Ginger has to try and plot out pretty much the rest of the game and figure out, how does Lucas win from here? How do I win from here? How do I not lose from here? And getting rid of Ajani as a game piece is clearly a big part of Ginger's plan for that.
But Lucas now in the same spot Ginger was. It's put some stuff out, take care of your thing, and the push begins.
Yeah, well, Lucas's spot is significantly different, being on turn 3, having Flage. I mean, that's a card you definitely want to be developing. But once again, we find Lucas just one land short of being able to bring this Flage back.
Celestial Perch brought in for Lucas as well. This is such it always feels unnatural to bring in a card like this. Like, the first couple times I ever played with it back in the day, it was, oh, this is a card against a red and black deck. And it goes, no. It's against a deck with red and against a deck that has black. It's very good against the red and black deck, sure. But this is here literally to deal with the key problems that you talked. You talked about how Wear and Tear is such a big card in this matchup. Celestial Purge is trying to do that same thing, but actually does it a little bit stronger because it can answer Flage as well.
Yeah, it can answer Flage. It can answer a flip to Johnny. It can answer Goblin Bombard. Like, it does so much. And the exiling is relevant as well because Flage is a part of the deck.
Yeah.
Arena of Glory being the land for Lucas, though, it's just a matter of getting the cards in the yard now. Like, that is the 4th land that you want to see. And choosing to purge the Goblin.
Wow.
Just get the damage in. Lucas is saying, this is my path to victory. My path to victory is I am going to just beat you. Like
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
attack.
I'm gonna beat you down with my creatures. This is gonna be. I mean, if we choose to play the Ocelot Pride, we will have City's Blessing, but it looks like we're choosing to hold up Thraben Charm. Ginger gets the Rummage on the Fable.
Definitely think the Thraben Charm is the place to be. If your opponent doesn't have a creature, they're going to lose anyway.
Yeah, and Lucas getting rewarded for holding up Thraben Charm.
Yep, takes care of the bombardment. Yeah, we're going to game 3.
That's game. Yeah, and I mean, well played by both players there. I really liked how I think the sequencing on which card you play first, Goblin Bombardment or a Johnny, mattered a lot if you're Ginger. And I think you have to play the Bombardment first, but I think that's not like perfectly intuitive. And so, you know, again, just a sign of a player who's played this a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, both of these players being so skilled at this deck and just playing so tight makes it to where, you know, it's really just coming down to how do the cards line up, you know? And so far, the play draw dynamic has changed things so much. But Ginger's going to be on the play for this final game of the round.
That's a little bit of advantage. I think it's really important to highlight there as well. When you're looking at tournament magic or you're trying to criticize tournament magic, that the outcome of the win or loss isn't necessarily what's being the driving factor here. Like you're trying to do it well. You know, doing it well doesn't necessarily mean that you have the outcome of winning the game. It means that you're doing it well. Doing it well means that you have an advantage, not that you have the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to make all of your plays to, you know, maximize the opportunities and advantages that you have. So we're seeing Ginger start here with a Guide of Souls. Looks like it's going to get discharged.
These are wild opening hands right now.
Yeah, these are wild. We're seeing a Wrath the Skies for both players.
We have both become control decks.
Mm-hmm. As we're gonna get, we have another Guide of Souls. And gonna go ahead and just play out the Elegant Parlor. Let's develop our mana. We can play Fable next turn. We can Wrath if we need to. We got options.
Lucas got a lot of options as well. I'm curious where this particular game is really taking its turning point right now. Like if you're sitting in Lucas's seat, what are you looking for at this point? Like sure, your hand blows up everything, but what is like your ultimate goal here?
I think Lucas has a very reactive hand, right? Which is what we keep seeing in this play draw dynamic is the on the play player wants to have the more aggressive hand and the on the draw player wants to have this more reactive plan and go for a longer, like they need to break serve is the big thing here. Look like Ginger has kind of threaded the needle a bit in the hand that he was able to keep and kind of gotten the best of both worlds. For Lucas, I mean, you need to be able to get to the later stage of the game and you need Ginger to run out of gas, which I think is why, you know, we are prioritizing getting rid of the Fable there, and we can Wrath if we need to. And we're trying to get Ginger to commit a little bit more to the board, perhaps.
Wow. Showdown gets drawn as well.
Yeah, but we've got another Purge. We've got Thraben Charm. I mean, Lucas's hand is like pretty well positioned for this, I think, and he's playing very methodically, very patiently, which I think is definitely what he needs to be doing.
Yeah, I think something really cool to look at here is how you end up using your removal. It's not necessarily using your removal and not taking damage. It's the timing of the removal, like shutting down your opponent, making them play in a different order sometimes, and then capitalizing on that. Really, the cost I think that comes with that is if your opponent is able to push through and then blast you with Phage, or if they have like Goblin Bombardment and they're able to close games out. I mean, that's really the only cost, I think, to being flexible with your removal versus using it to try and take down your opponent's creatures and save yourself the points of damage. It's really tough, I think, to waste it during combat in a situation like this where you have so much available to you, but that each availability on it matters where you point it at. You know, pointing it at a 2/2 Goblin is not nearly the same as pointing it at a Guide of Souls, which generates energy and it gives creatures counters and flying and etc. I feel like this is such a tough spot for Lucas on even how to order from here. Like, where do you take down this Showdown? How do you take down this Showdown? What are you looking at from the Showdown? Like, I think the Showdown's gonna go away. The question to me is, what are you using to get rid of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably interesting. Letting it just go back to your turn without firing off either of these, and we can get a little bit of a look at the cards exiled for Ginger here. So the mountain that he played, that came from the Showdown. It's like we have a Guide of Souls, like a Seasoned Pyromancer, and a Flage. So we, you know, we've got some decent information on where this is headed, but very, very interesting to me to let the Showdown stay.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the thought is just, I'm gonna tank a bunch of attacks from this, and then I'm going to drop just the world's biggest Wrath-the-Skies.
That's the only thought I could really see from this, but golly, it feels like that's so dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, these games are won on very thin margins, but perhaps what Lucas has identified is that for him to win this game, he is going to need to outvalue Ginger, and, you know, playing a Thraben Charm or a Purge on the Showdown after it's already exiled 4 cards is not like a great value proposition.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's kind of already done the thing that you are afraid of. So, you know, playing very patiently, playing very diligently. Also, once again, stuck on 3 lands.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a big factor to this, but I don't feel like that's the end of the world right here. I still feel like the options are plentiful for Lucas's side. The only thing I can really think of is from Lucas's side that maybe this is just occupying time from Ginger's side. Like, you have so many resources that you're willing to trade those resources for time. Like, you know exactly what Ginger's going to be doing in some of these situations. Trade that off and try to develop a excuse me, a more identified game plan.
I mean, right now Lucas is more so the control player. You know, like if we are going into classic Magic territory, Ginger is the beatdown, and Lucas is playing this like it's a control deck. And a big thing of that is playing very patiently, holding back your cards, trying to get your opponent to commit as much as possible to the board, and then take them out, break serve. And Lucas is letting himself, you know, get pretty low to enable that, which I really respect and think is a very strong call, albeit a risky one. So we're going to see the Pyromancer come down, dump some of the lands from Ginger's hand. We're going to get the Guide of Souls for our trouble. Also fill the graveyard a bit.
Flage sticking in exile too. I mean, this is a big turn, I think, for Lucas. Is that Flage perhaps sticking around in exile? That could be the difference in winning and losing here. Like, you're able to sweep this board out, and that Flage is going to be gone.
Yeah, as we are seeing the attack, likely going to jump the Guide of Souls. Already got counters from the Showdown, so that's going to be While jumping the Goblin Shaman. This is good, spreading the counters around, making it to where, okay, well, your removal is just not going to be that easy to use, as we're going to see the Galvanic Discharge. It's only going to take a couple. And then we've got this Guide of Souls coming in for her 3 damage, it looks like. The 2 energy in the bank for Lucas means we can Wrath. We can Wrath for 3 energy. We can wipe Ginger's board.
I think he needs a 4.
For what?
Showdown. Or is it just next turn? Oh my gosh, am I thinking back too far? Showdown doesn't let you play the...
Yeah, no. Flage is
Yeah, no, it's going away. Yeah.
Flage is going away. And we won't have another creature to put counters on. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, you know, I'm just going to Wrath this turn. Now, see what Lucas decides to do here.
Got to get that 1 life.
Yeah.
Double block. Oh, no.
Double block from Ginger.
The poor ocelot.
Very nice. It is still going to be a life. And then this is a big moment. It's a big moment for Lucas. Looks like it is going to be the Wrath of Skies on 3. That's going to take care of all 3 of the creatures. That's going to take care of the treasure token.
The token's gone too.
Yep. The Showdown is going to go away. Now we've got a creature to play. We can put a counter on it with the Ghost Vacuum. So it's not nothing. But this Wrath of Sky is looking a little awkward for Ginger, but is also a nice sort of insurance policy against Lucas breaking serve here. And Lucas stuck on 3 lands. It is pretty tough.
I guess my question is, are you stuck on 3 land, or do you only have 3? I mean, this is 3 right now. This feels like pretty magic number almost. I mean, 4 would be, I think, it'd be a little bit better here, but I'm not sweating this too much.
It's not the worst thing. I think 4 just gives you better flexibility.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, we've got a 3-mana card. We've got 2 2-mana cards. And Lucas still, identifying his role as the control player. And this is very smart, I think, 'cause that Guide of Souls has 3 toughness, right? And our Ocelot Pride has First Strike. So if it lines up, we can block the Guide of Souls, deal our First Strike damage, and then Thraben Charm it.
Yeah.
And that would be huge. That would be wonderful. We'd be thrilled to do that. Goblin Bombardment, though. Now
that makes it a little tougher.
Great card, but also, I don't think we're that sad because Ginger needs to play this before combat, if that's what he's going to do.
I forgot about the Pyromancer in the graveyard.
Yeah, Pyromancer in the graveyard's pretty huge. That's going to give us enough energy to jump the Guide of Souls. We can't Thraben Charm it because of the counter from Showdown.
Celestial Purge doesn't activate here either.
Celestial Purge doesn't hit it. So we're just going to be taking 4 in the air.
Yikes.
Not a lot we can say about it. Down to 7 life for Lucas.
This Guide of Souls is too big as well. I'm very worried.
Yeah. Johnny is kind of nice, but once again, the 3 mana is just sort of awkward. I guess you can play a Johnny, maybe attack with the Pride. It just doesn't feel that good.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find the way out of this.
You can play a Voice of Victory with your Arena of Glory, but again, like you die to Goblin Bombardment. If you don't keep up 2 mana for, you know, Purge or Charm, you die to Goblin Bombardment next turn.
Yeah,
and
Lucas
that is
scoops it.
Yeah, Lucas knows there's just no way around. And that is game. Congratulations, Misplaced Ginger, our only undefeated player so far.
That is
ever.
that's such a close margin too, because when you look at those turns that we're cycling through, where every single turn that Lucas is holding on to options to try and generate tempo and kill a more solid option, how much life can be saved if you're picking off the creatures during combat instead? And that's a really tough point to draw, because you're also trying to play into the extra energy that you can generate and then wipe the board with a Wrath instead. That you're trying to draw that value, but how much life are you paying in the meantime? And then with that life you're paying in the meantime, what does that mean in later turns? Like you said, he got stuck on 3 land there. That 3 land that you're stuck on, suddenly every single one of those combats where you took 2 or you took 3, those now have added up a ton. So I feel like that's a really tough call to make there, because it's, you know, what are the odds you draw their 4th land in a spot like that? It's pretty high. But now what does it cost you if you end up on the failed side of that? Like, how much difference does that actually make?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lucas was kind of playing from behind the whole game. And I think when you're playing from behind, you have to make decisions that are riskier. And seeing him, you know, especially with the sort of hindsight of having seen the match, you know, might seem more like, well, did you really need to sacrifice this much life and, you know, try to truly maximize the value of this Wrath of Skies? And I think the answer is still yes, even though, you know, the results proved that, you know, Ginger was able to get through it. I think Lucas was just in a position where he was kind of forced to make plays that felt or seemed suboptimal, because that was his only path to victory.
Oh gosh, it's so tough in a spot like that. Like I put myself in that same seat and I go, what is that cutoff point? At what point do I decide, nope, this is too much, I'm going to kill creatures instead? Because I see it from both ways too. It's like you have so much removal that you can afford to use during combat, but you have a Wrath, so you can afford to pay some life. I don't know. That's such a tough margin to call. That I think that's really what's separating a 5-0 from one of the player versus the other, to be honest.
Right, well, and you know, the holding on to the Purge and Thraben Charm when the Showdown came down, you know, again, was, I assume, a decision of, I want to maximize the value of all my cards, and I am willing to give you a couple of counters on your creatures. But what ended up mattering so much was 1/1/1 counter on a Guide of Souls. If that was not there, then our Thraben Charm deals with it. You know, we go to do the Pyromancer from the graveyard. In response, okay, cool, I kill your Guide of Souls. You have 2/1/1s. Congrats.
Yeah.
It's just not that big of a deal. So you know, again, a thing where when you're playing from behind, you have to make decisions that feel suboptimal, but with the hindsight of the whole game, you know, those cards never really got played anyway. So
yeah,
would have made for a much different texture of the game.
It's much easier to see it when you see both hands as well. It's always something to
absolutely
take a look at. You know, what do the cards played so far mean from Lucas's perspective? How does it tell you what Ginger has left when you can't see the hand? That's a totally different story. It's really tough to see that when you can see both hands as well. You have to be sitting in the seat to really know the difference there. With that, that's going to conclude our 5th round for the tournament. We have 1 round that's going to be left, which means that we're coming up on our 4th broadcast match, our 6th round of the day. We're going to be finding out who's taking home a 1st place prize, who's taking home a runner-up, and who's able to close out from a 2-loss perspective and take home some prizes of their own. A 4-2 and better record is going to be walking away with some prize. That 1st place spot, $1,250. If you want to see your favorite streamers and how their records are doing, you can always find them on Twitch as well. That's what the MTGO Creator Showdown is about, is featuring those players who are streaming Magic on Magic Online. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, our 6th and final round of the day is going to be taking place. Stick around. It's the MTGO Creator Showdown. Thank you again for joining us. We are headed into our final round of the day. Before I do any introductions, I want to give you something that's much more important right now, and it's about player points. If you're in chat right now on Twitch, you can type Showdown into the chat and enter yourself for a chance to win 500 player points. Again, that's type Showdown in the chat for a chance to win 500 player points. I think it's a chance to win 500 player points. So with that, now we can get into the introduction of it. I'm Nathan Zamora. I'm joined by Niall Joan, and now we just came out of our third match of the day, but our fifth round for the tournament so far, and it was a pretty tight margin, I'd say, that came into that. But now we're going to be headed into round number 6. I've asked you after the previous round how you thought, what were your standout plays. Is that opinion still the same as we come into this final round?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's really hard in something like the Boros Energy Mirror, because we saw in that match how much play draw mattered and how much both players were dramatically altering what they were doing, how they were approaching the game as they went into each game on the play or on the draw. With the on the draw player always taking this more of a control role than the on the play player. And you know, we saw a lot of big decision points that are very tricky and have a lot of depth to them. We saw these players navigate them expertly, and ultimately saw Misplaced Ginger walk away our only undefeated player.
And I'd say with quite well deserved as well. We got to watch 2 rounds in a row with Ginger and see exactly why he's been coming up with these big wins. You know, part of it is big draws, but as you mentioned at the start of it, it's one of the reasons why you play Boros Energy. The draw doesn't have to be spectacular, it just has to be good. And that's what the deck does. It's just have good draws, good play, good record. And so with that, we can now take a look at our standings and see exactly how players have arrived at this point. Misplaced Ginger, the only 5-0 player thus far that's sitting at the top of it, but plenty of records that are showing up with just good match win rates here. And as I see them start to float to that top 8 point, that's really one of the reasons why I love Magic tournaments, is round after round after round, you see the names that you remember consistently float to the top. We saw Reduke early on with the loss. Now he's standing at 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, Reed has done amazing. So all of these players have done incredible. And so we've got 9 people. We're sort of on the bubble for prizes right now. So for a bunch of them, this is a very critical round. You know, I mean, everyone obviously wants to do their best and win every round, maximize their prizes. But for all of these 3-2 players, this is sort of their opportunity to either walk away with some pretty sweet prizes. You know, it's like points, chess, a full digital set, which is a huge thing to win. All of that is on the line for everyone here at 3-2. And, you know, a bunch of known names at the area too. I mean, we've already talked about Travis Brown, Disgruntled Elk on Hammer. We've got Corey B on Goryo's Vengeance. BFG we saw earlier. We've got a lot of cool stuff here in the 3-2 bracket.
Definitely a lot of different decks that have come into the tournament. When we saw the breakdown for it, Boros Energy was taking the primary deck slot for that, but there was so much that was scattered down through it as you continued to look. It was something like, oh gosh, I don't even remember how many different decks it was. It was a plethora of different decks that were brought to the table. But at the top spots, this is where we're focused at right now for the 6th round of this tournament. And it is a lot of Boros Energy that's getting thrown into the mix. So when we look at this last matchup here, I've talked about Reed Duke with this one. Thankfully, I've been updated with this one. I had no idea. It's going to be Reed Duke who's playing in this match for this one. Of course, up against Misplaced Ginger. And this is, I think, a big point that's on the line for this one. We've seen a lot of Boros Energy. We've seen Boros Energy decks that were identical. Now we're going to be seeing Boros Energy decks face off, but they're quite a bit of big difference, I'd say, from the deck list that we look here. And as we get into them, we can start to see exactly why. So we saw the deck from Misplaced Ginger is pretty standard and straightforward. The deck that I have from Reduke is not registered exactly the same as what I'm looking at right now. Excuse me, it is. I'm a complete moron and did not recognize the standout difference of Lightning Bolt. For some reason in my head, this is registered only as the Alpha Beta Unlimited variation of it. When I didn't see the traditional frame, my brain just completely melted and did something else. But there's quite a few cards here that are different than the list that we've been looking at so far.
Yeah, I mean, Reed's only running 2 Voice of Victories, is running just a single Fable of the Mirror Breaker, in addition to his 2 Pyromancers. He's got a Force of Virtue, which is Very interesting addition here. Really excited to see kind of how that plays out. And then the rest of it, we've got some of the tried and true. I mean, in the sideboard, we've got these Molten Rains, Karma. I think what we're really going to see here is the difference in approach from an old school modern player like Reed Duke and more of the new generation of competitor in Ginger, and how they both approach the format, the match, the meta, all of that, I think will be influenced by their own personal histories with this game.
I love Lightning Bolt. It's one of my favorite cards ever because of what it does. Mostly I try to point it at faces, but you can't always do that. And then of course, when I see Molten Rain, I'm always cheering for a player who plays Molten Rain. I can't help but do so. It's part of my genetic makeup. And so with that now, we can go take a look at Misplaced Ginger's side of the board. And as you said, sort of a player who approaches it from the old school point of view versus someone who does it from a new school point of view. And when I look at the difference from the deck list, the most important thing I would say is that I'm looking at a deck that primarily points its way straight forward and then hopes to have something on the backup, versus Reed's deck, which is much more of an ebb and flow style, if I had to sum it up into just a couple of words.
Yeah, I think some important things here are, Reed is not running any copies of Static Prison. Ginger is running 2 copies of Static Prison. Ginger obviously doesn't have any of the Lightning Bolt. Their sideboards are very different. Clearly just differences in how they want to approach it. Both still ending up in this incredibly powerful deck, but those tiny deck differences, that can end up mattering quite a bit. So excited to see how that works out for both of them.
I'm curious on this one how much that Reed is able to bounce back from the play versus draw because of Lightning Bolt. Like, I feel like Lightning Bolt is such a big addition to how you can fight back from a matchup and maybe take your own footing as the aggressive player, where Static Prison is much more of a close the game out kind of card, I feel like, because eventually you run out of energy from this card unless you're just keeping going. But if you're able to keep going, I don't really feel like that's so much of a big deal. But I feel like the ability to just step back from something, take out a creature, and then start to play your own, I feel like is such a big difference from this. Like, when I look at Boros energy lists, I have always wondered, like, how does Lightning Bolt not find its way into this deck? Like, this is one of the strongest cards that we've ever had printed in the game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of decisions around that, and clearly it is sort of up to the deck designer. And Reed obviously values what Lightning Bolt brings, and I think Lightning Bolt does bring a lot of options for a highly skilled player. As you said earlier, you often send it face, and that makes a lot of sense. 3 damage is a lot of damage for 1 mana. But a lot of the skill of playing a card like Lightning Bolt is knowing when not to send it to someone's face, what creatures matter, what, when and how and where you interact with this one card is can be very complex and deep. And we're about to see that in this game, which we are ready to get right into in just a moment.
I feel like Fatal Push is inspired by Lightning Bolt. If I truly had to break it down to card design, I'm like, no. If it wasn't for Lightning Bolt, you would not have Fatal Push. And I will stick to that ground as much as I can. When we're ready, we're going to be jumping straight into the match between Reed Duke and Misplaced Ginger. Reed Duke sitting at 4-1, Misplaced Ginger sitting at 5-0 for this. So this is a really big matchup. Again, we've seen Boros energy decks float to the top. I don't think it's just about the number of Boros energy decks that are brought, because there's so many different decks brought to the table. And even again, in our first match of the day, we saw Mill completely take down Boros energy. It wasn't even close. It wasn't like the Boros energy had a bad draw either. It was just Mill blew it out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Mill is one of those decks that is often well positioned against the meta deck and fares worse against the more fringe decks. And, we are seeing the meta decks at the top here for this round and the round prior. We saw Mill do very well, but not make its way to this position right now against Ginger. So, it really goes to show that, at events like this, there is a reason that a certain deck has a bigger share of the meta than any other deck. this is possibly, probably the best deck in the format and the strongest thing to be doing. And also just unbelievably consistent, I think, is one of the real strengths of Boros Synergy. There's a lot of decks like, Amulet Titan, Affinity, Storm even, that have these explosive, incredible, like, I kill you on turn 1, turn 2, and you can't stop me. But they are less consistent and they are hateable. And it's hard to bring in hate for Boros Energy because they're attacking you on like every axis that a person can attack you in this game. They've got planeswalkers, they've got creatures, they've got enchantments, they have artifacts, they have all these things that matter. How do you deal with them all?
Yeah, you heard it here first. Niall Jones said you can't hate Boros Energy. You got to love the deck. That's what I took away from it right now. That's exactly what I'm hearing, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I will claim that until the day I'm dead. With that, now we're jumping
You're
into the
allowed
match.
to interpret things however you choose to interpret them, and that's all right.
So here we go. And see, you see the frame here? When we get into Reed Duke's side of the board, you see that lightning bolt? That's exactly what I meant, okay? That's the lightning bolt you have to play with. I'm banning all other variations if you're playing against me.
No, I'm playing the one with the girl eating ramen. That's me. That's you can keep your old lightning bolt. I got a lady eating ramen. That's sweet. I love it.
I will accept Hadouken as well. But outside of that, I'm done. No more.
Sure. So we're seeing 2 static prisons in the opening hand for Ginger here. With the Guide to Souls, 2 Ajani's, but Reed with an Ocelot Pride, a couple Voice of Victories, and that old border lightning bolt.
I'm kind of curious about Misplaced Ginger and the Flooded Strand here on turn 1. You've got a hand that's entirely white cards. You're paying life here to use the Flooded Strand. What's the benefit of using the Flooded Strand here versus using the Plains?
Yeah, I guess one tiny marginal thing is Flooded Strand gets a land out of your deck.
Yeah, I guess
it doesn't.
The game is probably going to be going on for a bit, so let the land get thinned out, and hopefully that makes a difference. It's always what I end up seeing in my head, but I look at this and I go, gosh, that could be a parlor at some point.
Yeah, Ocelot Pride, a huge draw for Reed there. Being able to bolt the Guide of Souls, get in with the Ocelot Pride, and then make 2 cats puts him at such an advantage. Ragavan,
Wow.
if he wants it, can also just drop a Voice of Victory. Oh, there's the discharge. Looks like this might be at the start of combat. Yes.
Yeah, I don't expect Ginger to discharge at any point during Reed's turn aside from start of combat here, but that opens up now the window.
I wouldn't either, but you never know, right?
This is a big choice here from Reed, and he's going to go for it right away. Ragavan held until next turn versus plopping it right now. Plopping it right now feels like the right call to me, simply because, well, spend mana. The mana's spent right now.
Yeah, what you're doing by playing it right now is you are making Ginger have answers for it. You are using your mana very efficiently.
Wow. These are going to get very costly on these static prisons. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the start of this.
What a draw.
Wow. Huge draw from Reed.
Draw.
The original frame lightning bolt.
Reed's attack was so awkward before drawing this lightning bolt.
It was really bad.
It was extremely awkward. And suddenly he's got so many good choices. Now, the question is, when do you use this lightning bolt? Do you swing with some number of creatures? Do you first just take out the Ajani, which looks like what he's decided to do? And now, do you attack with the Ragavan? And Reed says no to that as well, and just says, "Hey, how about 2 damage?" And yeah, I'll take an advantaged position.
I think that's really the difference there. If you're choosing to lightning bolt before combat, it's only the 1/1s that can swing. You can't swing with the Ragavan if you're lightning bolting first, because the whole benefit of swinging with the Ragavan is to bait the block and then take out the Ajani. With that, Ginger does have another Ajani in hand and also draws a Goblin Bombardment. Holy moly!
We don't have the mana for both. And that is relevant. But Reed is also hellbent. I mean, Ginger's on 12 life. Also, very important to note, Ginger's only got 3 energy left and has 2 static prisons, and that is a Goblin Bombardment of Reed's own. We get to attack with Voice of Victory, make 2 tokens, sack that. I mean, we can wipe the whole board and attack with Ragavan and Voice of Victory into an empty board.
What?
We sack the 2 mobilized tokens. We take care of Ajani. We sack the 2 cats. We take care of the other 2 cats. We hit for 3, take Ginger down to 9. We get whatever we get off of Ragavan. Oh, wow. This changed the game completely.
And you know that you're comfortable with it as well because of the Voice of Victory. There's nothing that Misplaced Ginger could do to change that effect.
Right. Well, and also, again, we've got 2 things under these static prisons. And Ginger has 1 card in hand, needs to start generating energy, or he's going to have to start giving stuff back to Reed. And what do you give him? The Voice of Victory? The Ocelot Pride? Nothing's good. There's no good choice.
Reed's taken through everything here as well. I can see everything locking into place as this is being solved.
Right. Well, his options are all good, right?
Yeah.
And it's really a matter of, and this is what separates a good Magic player from an excellent Magic player, is your options are all good, but what one is the best? Even if it's by a narrow, like 0.5% better, Reed is going to consider all of them, and he's going to find the one that is the highest value, and that's the one he's going to do.
See,
maybe that looks like just attacking with the Voice of Victory. You know, maybe that looks like any number of things. But it looks like we're going to be swinging out, getting the 2 tokens in.
Yeah.
And now it is bombardment time. Get rid of the Ajani. Get rid of the cats. And here you go, 3 damage.
What a board.
And what do we rip? Voice of Victory entered the exile zone.
What are you kidding right now? How do you beat this?
Seasoned Pyromancer. That's a decent start.
Yeah. You beat it in the next 2 games is what you do. My gosh. That is nuts.
Yeah, congrats to Reed taking down the first game of this match. I mean, so many cards drawn exactly when Reed needed them.
So much of this too is just looking at like the timing of when Goblin Bombardment is able to be played. It's really tough to really point out this deck and what's tying it together, because I feel like everything's working together in that regard. Every single time I watch a game with this deck, it's a new card that's tying up the game and making sure that it's easy to close out in this fashion. You know, we've seen it be Flash, we've seen it be Voice of Victory, we've seen it be Guide of Souls. Now we're seeing it be Goblin Bombardment alongside a pair of lightning bolts that is forcing Misplaced Ginger to play more aggressively, I'd say, in any regard. If you have 2 static prisons, you're going to have to fight. You do not have the option other than to fight and try to find an advantage, because eventually those are going to run out. That gives Reed a spot. It gives Reed a spot now where he's able to just simply blow stuff up. You have to put all of your resources into play, and I feel like that's more vulnerable against what Reed has, because he just has cheap, effective removal. He's not playing static prison. He's always on that foot where he has that. I do think the draw from Reed was superior in pretty much any regard you want to break it down. Misplaced Ginger's on a mulligan. His hand is entirely on the front foot, or trying to be rather. That gives Reed the advantage in that spot. But once you then start to break it down, like Reed also has the options in that spot as well. It's just crazy to point at one card in this deck and have it be like, oh, that's the key card, because all of them feel like the key card.
Yeah, and you know, we are seeing a hand from Ginger that is pretty nuts, but we're seeing a on the draw hand from Reed that is also extremely strong. I mean, with this Celestial Purge, with this Lightning Bolt, you know, we're really getting to see the benefit of having Lightning Bolt in a deck. And looks like we are going to go straight into getting rid of this Ocelot Pride at the start of combat. And now Ginger is going to fetch into a Plains to get this Johnny down.
Not a removal from
Wrath
Reed.
the Skies. Wrath the Skies is a pretty nice pickup. I mean, it's not going to be useful this turn, but you know, this Celestial Purge is going to be pretty nice against the Fable next turn.
Oh, I think the choice here from Reed is, does he want to put down the Goblin Bombardment right away?
Yeah, it's a tough decision. Looks like he is prioritizing getting the bombardment down, which I think makes a lot of sense. You know, that you're playing with the information that you have. And that's going to be 3 damage from these cats. I think Reed is just going to be happy to not see a Goblin Bombardment hit the field. I mean, obviously Fable's very strong, and following Fable with a second Fable is very strong. So we'll see how that goes down. But Reed with an Ajani and an already established Goblin Bombardment, that's pretty nice. We'll see kind of how he chooses to. Once again, he is just faced with so many choices.
Yeah. Golly, it's tough.
You can certainly play your Ajani. You can Goblin Bombardment your cat, and then ping Ginger's Ajani. You can make another cat, get rid of Ginger's Ajani. And then your Ajani is pretty exposed. Think it, it would just die to the Goblin Shaman. No, it would have 1 left. It would be alive with 1.
That's the direction.
Yeah, we'll see.
Is it ever just... I don't think it's ever just wait. Wait seems like too difficult of an option.
No, I think you got to get this Johnny flipped while you can. Choosing to ping the Goblin Shaman like this lets us use the Ajani damage to get rid of the Goblin Shaman.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
At the end
now,
of the day, it's a cat that has to be taken down for this Ajani to flip.
Yeah. Interesting.
How many discards?
Interesting to go after the Goblin Shaman there, and not the Ajani, but I suppose there are a lot of considerations that maybe wanting to keep off the treasure, maybe just not being that concerned with the Ajani, but
You have a purge in hand.
you got a purge in hand, so maybe you're just not really that scared. I mean, I guess if you Ginger attacks the Ajani, we can just, I mean, we have a lot of options.
Yeah. It's important to say that Reed's very much a resource player as well, and like a tempo player. I've seen this so much from Reed over so many years. He plays for tempo. It's like tempo and then value. Like that's the order for Reed, I feel like a lot of times. Once the tempo is set, then you can focus on value. If he's shutting off a treasure token here, that means he's getting something from it. That's the way that I'm reading this from Reed's side.
Yeah, interesting attack from Ginger.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward block, I think, on Reed's side.
Yeah, absolutely. Then 2 damage onto the Ajani. We get rid of the cat. We get rid of Ginger's Ajani. And then...
Now what?
Do we play Showdown? Do we play out our second Fable?
I mean, now I look back and I'm like, that token that could have been here. This would have been Fable plus Voice this turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh gosh, that's This is so tough. Like that, to me, when I see that happen, that is a master level play from Reed Duke, is that he's shutting off an entire card from being played on this turn.
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying earlier, right? About like, this is what separates like a good Magic player from an excellent one, is Reed's got to think about all these lines and find the one that is, if even marginally better, going to find the better line. And I think that's what we saw. And that's why, you know, these players are both just so skilled, as we are getting a Surveil off of the Elegant Parlor and Ginger's instep here.
I mean, this is a full takedown, right? From Reed's side?
Yeah, I mean,
I imagine you Wrath and keep the Ajani around.
Well, we don't have enough to Wrath and get rid of the Fables at the moment.
Oh, that's right. You don't get X+1, you just get X.
You just get X.
Oh.
So we're one off of that. So, you know, we can do stuff like play Pyromancer and activate a Johnny. That's pretty good. We have our Celestial Purges, but it kind of feels like we don't really want to use it because we're just sitting on this Wrath of Skies.
Oh yeah, no, I do not want to use the Celestial Purge. This is this is sticking around. I feel like this is a Flage takedown card, is what it feels like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Reed taking a bit on this Surveil. Very interested to see what ends up coming of that. I wonder what he's thinking about here. And I mean, I feel like in this matchup, your life total is such a expendable resource, and I think Reed is just willing to spend it.
Galvanic Discharge hits the grave.
Yeah, chooses to surveil away the discharge, and I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, what could Ginger possibly play that's not just going to get eaten by this Wrath in a couple turns? You know, like, I mean, I guess the good thing about Galvanic Discharge is it would have ramped us in energy. So we could have played it, chose to spend none of the 3 that it gives us, and then played Wrath the Skies for, you know, however much we want.
Discarding the Wrath? Oh my gosh, he discarded the Wrath.
Incredible.
Wow. I feel lost.
Well, this increases our number of creatures. This increases our number of red permanents.
So Reed is looking at this and he goes, "Oh, you didn't deal with my Ajani. That means the Ajani's sticking around. Here, you deal with my stuff."
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Reed really sort of becoming the beatdown here and knowing that Wrath the Skies not really what he needs to get out of this. I mean, he can trade this elemental token for the cat. He can Ajani down the Fables every turn. He's got onboard answers for everything. And if anything, casting the Wrath the Skies, getting rid of his own Goblin Bombardment.
It hurts that.
Yeah.
Wow. That is such good recognition from Reed to realize that the Ajani's not dealt with, and that's a primary target. If it's not dealt with, what does he have to deal with anything? On Ginger's side, he doesn't have anything to deal with stuff. He's going to get 2 draws here from a Fable, but now if he's dealing with stuff, you have the tempo, you get to start attacking. Oh my God, that's such good recognition from Reed. Golly, he's so good.
And it looks like Showdown, trying to see this tiny little window here. It looks like a Voice of Victory, a Seasoned Pyromancer, another Showdown, and a Goblin Bombardment.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty big hits.
Can't use anything this turn though.
Nothing this turn. But now it's kind of like on Reed to do something here. I mean, yeah, we can swing for 2. I'm Reed. I'm not sure if I even. Well, I guess I don't know if this is attacking our life or a Johnny. If it's attacking a Johnny, we have to do something about it.
Yeah.
He's going to surveil first. He's going to operate with the maximum amount of information that he can.
So the question is, do you You get rid of the elemental token, or do you get rid of the cat token?
Yeah, that's tough. I would say probably you get rid of the elemental token. You can make more of them with the pyromancer pretty easily. You're not hurting for red permanents.
Yeah. you've got 3 of them in play right now.
Yeah. Well, 3 that aren't a Johnny, at least.
Yeah, they've all gone unchecked as well. Yeah, my head mutes the Ajani in my head. That's not a red permanent. I've made that. Everyone's first time playing Ajani, they made that mistake.
Oh, yeah, they're like, I have an Ajani.
They're like,
that's red.
It says other than that one. You're like, what? Because there's 65 lines of text on it. Easy to gloss over it. Wow, this is not the easiest block. I mean, because the thing about it is if you give up the cat, you're losing for a Johnny feed as well as you're losing just an extra power on board. But if you get rid of the elemental token, you're getting rid of red permanent. How much can that matter? I think that maybe this is like thinking to the ultimate end of the angle for Reed. He's got the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the kind of player who is going to think about how this affects the rest of his game, how this affects his next turns, what he could possibly draw, what Ginger could be doing. He's considering all of these options and angles and figuring out what of these gives him the highest chance of success. And that's why we keep seeing Reed Duke at Pro Tours.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about what happens if you draw another Ajani.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of damage that happens.
And we've got the Flage in the yard for Ginger. That's a big consideration.
What's your ideal draw here for Reed?
Yeah, I don't know. He's in such a good position already. I wonder if Flage is his ideal draw. You know, start developing a Flage of his own.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It actually feels like it makes the most sense to me.
This charge definitely doesn't hurt.
Wait, did he send the damage to face?
From the ping? Or from the...
Yeah, he blocked.
He didn't... No. He blocked and just let the creatures deal damage to each other, right?
There's still a cat token in play.
Yeah, I guess he just wanted to get a little damage out there.
Is he planning a lethal here? Did he see a lethal draw?
He's just not afraid of this cat token.
I mean, that's pretty wild. Letting your opponent keep a 2/1 so that you can deal them 1 damage is... That's a lot.
Well, when you've got a Goblin Bombardment on the board and you've got an Ajani,
Yeah,
you kind of always have the option to deal with the cat token.
Yeah. It's not necessarily just, oh, well, it's 1 damage. It's more of like a threshold mark. Like once you get enough, the Goblin Bombardment ends it.
I think it's a thing of, you know, the tapped cat token's not going to make a difference on this turn. And there are potential outcomes where Reed does enough to kill or effectively kill this turn. And so, like, sure, keep your cat token. It's not threatening me to lose the game.
Oh, this is threatening a lethal position because he can sack the Pyromancer, bring back the Pyromancer.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. I see. He's trying to literally close it out in back-to-backs, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's a really tough one.
Ginger's got a very, very nice hand here. Yeah, in a very interesting position though, with, you know, Flage in the yard, but there's only only so many places you can send the flage damage that really matters, because you can't target a creature with it, obviously, because Reed just sacks the creature. You don't gain any life. You can target Reed's face with it, for sure. You can Lightning Helix him, and then he purges the flage, and it's dealt with forever, and all you've really done is cast Lightning Helix for 4 mana. You can target a Johnny with it,
That's the only thing I can see to target.
which could certainly work. But if Reed really wanted to, he could Goblin Bombardment his Ajani down. Like, if he really cared, if he really cared about you gaining that life, he could.
He's like, no, you listen here. You are targeting my creature with this flage. You got it?
Yeah.
This is wild. There's so many little things happening right now. Cat token's coming into, I assume, a Johnny, and I can't really see anything else it could be targeting.
Yeah, presumably it is. And we are throwing a cat in front of it. I think likely going to once again Goblin Bombardment. Oh, this time we are Goblin Bombarding the cat token with the Pyromancer, and we shocked in the Sacred Foundry. So, you know, clearly we are planning on activating the Pyromancer this turn, which I think easily sets up lethal.
Yeah, Ginger can go to +3 with Flage and go up to 12 HP. 12 life, excuse me, HP. The Final Fantasy set really clicking into my head right now. Galvanic Discharge on the Ajani. I think this is pretty much set up for the entirety of this time.
Yeah,
plus one counter coming in here as well.
Yeah, Galvanic Discharge giving us the +1/+1 counter is nice. Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
There's nothing else that counts for that, is there? Oh, we didn't use anything pre. Oh, this counter doesn't really matter that much, does it? I guess
we're being targeted with the Goblin Bombardment, so it does kind of matter.
Yeah.
Because now you have to trade something, and you know, now it's going to be one of these elemental tokens, which perfectly reasonable. But now, like, this Flage, Reed has to purge it on his turn. Johnny's dealt with.
Yeah.
These are all pretty significant things. Yeah.
Yeah. And
we're gonna get a +1/+1 counter on our reflection when we.
Oh,
we're not even gonna do the Flage. We're gonna do the Pyromancer. Yep.
So Ginger feels totally comfortable on life total then. Oh, bricks on the land though.
Yeah, but I think it's just more about getting 2 bodies on the board than anything else. I think Ginger, you know, is also a very skilled player, is able to read that Reed is doing these things in an effort to close out the game. And Ginger is wanting to put up a wall. Ginger is wanting to put up a wall and say, I can't let you in the game this quickly. I need to buy a little bit of time, develop my Flage, do these things. Because, you know, now if Reed wants to, like, discharge something, purge the Fable, and swing in, you know, get 4 damage in, you end up going 4, send the 2 cats up there 6, take Ginger down to 3, but now you don't have anything for the Flage that's coming. So you just get rolled from there. So it doesn't feel like, and I mean, Reed's Reed, so I could get, you know, he could totally prove me wrong here. It doesn't feel like he has a path to victory on this turn anymore. And I think that is because Ginger did such a good job of, you know, establishing this defense in a way that I don't think Flage would have done the same.
Reed's pushing through the damage. That's 3's enough.
Yep, takes Ginger down to 6. We've got another Showdown trigger here.
really feel like this land was important. I could be wrong.
We've got Ocelot Pride. We've got Flage.
Oh boy, this is suddenly turned into quite a position here because Reed is kind of missing on a couple draws. I think really changed this, and that means that this plays Ginger's plan of just trying to stand the ground and suddenly just be pure defense. It's looking like suddenly it's going to get there because now this is a Johnny coming down. Says, you know what? I don't even need this turn for the Flage. I can hold on one more. Only it's 6 life.
Yeah, and I mean, we still have the Thraben Charm too for the Goblin Bombardment. So I kind of like
clear the board
this
out.
Yeah, this is so nice because now if Reed wants to kill this Ocelot Bride from here, he has to sack his whole board to do it.
Yeah, he does not have an option. I think he's got to kill the Ocelot Bride.
He is willing to do it, but that was very well sequenced from Ginger.
What the heck? What happened?
Very well sequenced from Ginger, but a Johnny of his own for Reed.
Gosh.
Doesn't play it out, holding up just the Celestial Purge. Maybe wants to wait to play the Ajani until a moment where he can force the flip.
I think it just gives your opponent such an easy Flage target. Is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And no way anymore to Goblin Bombardment away when Ginger tries.
Yeah.
Well, we can deal with that. Go down to 7, go down to 4.
Yikes. It's a big one.
Ooh, a Johnny and Fable.
Pretty good.
Now, it'd be a lot better if Ginger wasn't sitting on a Wear Tear.
Still get the token.
Still get the token, you still get the Ajani. It's a little hard to see the graveyards. I'm not sure if Ginger has another Flage in there. I don't think we've seen one hit, but...
Oh, it's a Showdown that's there. Wow.
Yeah, discharge, very nice. Wow, and I mean, both these players like halfway through their decks already. Like this is a unbelievably grindy match for Boros Energy.
This is why I like aggro decks. Is when I get to these matchups. It's like nothing is huge, everything is very medium to low, and you have to turn those into huge things. I love that.
Yeah, now if you are Ginger, what do you think you do with this discharge?
That is an excellent question because I actually have no idea. I think the discharge was kind of a bad draw.
Yeah, it's a little tough for sure. I like just attacking with the Cat Warrior, letting Reed set up the block, and then if you want, you can just discharge, or you can let both the Johnnies flip, and then just discharge the Ajani. Yeah, this is nice.
Energy.
Saves you.
Oh, you know what it could be here as well is like Reed, like making a token and then getting discharged in response. No, I think that's
oh yeah, bring out the Pyromancer.
That's a good thing. And then you
can now you can zero the Ajani.
Kept the discharge again.
Now where does this go?
I mean, I'm killing the Ajani, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's a little tough. I mean, it is any target. Yeah, we can get rid of the Ajani. Lightning Bolt for Reed. I mean,
it's too late though.
I mean, that kills the Ajani.
Yeah, Reed
with
feels
the
like
galvanic
he's still alive.
discharge.
Wow.
That is gonna seal it up for Ginger.
That is a really close game in a spot where it felt
thinnest
like
of margins, yeah.
Where it felt like Reed was in control of the game for so long as well. And it's just at every single step of the way, Misplaced Ginger had something that goes, well, maybe not. It just continued to hang on turn after turn after turn. And really, one of the big spots about that game that turned it was Showdown. Showdown providing the targets and forcing all of Reed's resources onto that token, or I'm sorry, onto the Ocelot Pride for that one turn that pulled so much of what Reed was trying to do into that one spot. He had nothing left over after that.
Yeah, I think, Ginger has done a very good job in multiple games that we've seen of utilizing the Showdown as you're running Goblin Bombardment, so every one of these +1/+1 counters represents one of your creatures. Like another creature you have to sacrifice to get rid of my game piece. We've seen him use this to great effect multiple times to win games. And now he's earned himself a game 3 against Reed Duke in this Boros Energy Mirror.
Just such a strange card. I remember when that card came out in Standard and everyone was trying to figure out how you played 4 of this card. Like, what deck could play 4 Showdown of the Skulls? That is what it felt like. Every single deck I built, I was like, and I'll splash white for 4 Showdown of the Skulls. It just felt like every deck I built did. I'm so happy to be seeing this copy, 2 copies of this card played in this deck. I suppose that Boros Energy is probably one of the primary ways to play it. So going into a third game now, this is our last match that's taking place. Not the best opening hand from Reed. A removal spell, 2 Goblin Bombardments. I feel like Elegant Parlor is going to try to pull this hand together.
Yeah, kind of weird hands for both players. With Ginger just having this sort of Guide of Souls and then not really doing a lot more until turn 3. Blaze is a nice pickup for sure. Reed happy to take a damage, it seems like. Oh, might be
Reed is not a damage taker.
The discharge now. Net himself an energy in the process. Ginger can play out his Goblin Bombardment. And then turn 3, Ginger gets the option of Fable or Pyromancer, as Reed has a couple Pyromancers in hand.
Yeah. I mean, this is looking very nice for Reed, I'll say. This hand suddenly went from like, it's okay, to like, whoa, this is a good hand. That's what it felt like happened from an Elegant Parlor into a Seasoned Pyromancer.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very big dramatic turnaround there. And next turn, we've got a wide array of options. The Pyromancers line up very nicely into this Wrath the Skies, because if Ginger wants to Wrath, he's going to lose more of his own stuff than really Reed will. He's got the Goblin Bombardment, he's got the Goblin Token, he's got Fable. We've got the Guide of Souls coming down for Reed. And Reed, worth noting, 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, he is going to have to play, I think, a little bit faster through this one. That is definitely worth noting. I'd say something you don't really experience outside of Magic Online is a chess clock. And frankly, I like it. No more draws.
That's nice. It's nice. It's a thing that can only really exist in a space like this, but it is nice that it gets to exist in a space like this. And it makes time so much more of a resource that each player individually gets to utilize. So you're seeing this Goblin Shaman attack in, make the token. Reed's gonna block with his Pyromancer.
Feels like an interesting moment here. Misplaced Ginger's seen a Goblin Bombardment hit the graveyard. A Celestial Purge feels like the timing on this could completely take that option away from Reed for the rest of the game. So that's something like my head plays way too far forward on and goes backwards. This goes, how can I trick my opponent into trying to use this and then completely strip that away from an option that they have? You have Wrath of Skies in hand, but it's similar to the spot you pointed out last game. You have too many of your own resources. Why would you try to utilize this? Like, I feel like so many options are here for Misplaced Ginger.
You can Wrath for 1. If you do, yeah, you need to use the treasure token. Looks like Ginger might be wrathing, making 2 energy. Oh, go. Is he saying X equals 2?
So
He's
X
getting rid of
equals
both
2.
the goblin bombardments? Yeah. All right, just saying, you know what? If I have 3 lands and a Fable and you have 3 lands and no Fable, I like that position for me, but Reed's got a surprise for you.
He's got 3 land and a Fable.
Yeah.
I'd still say that Misplaced
Fable.
Ginger spot is pretty good looking.
Oh yeah, it looks great. And it's also a thing of like Ginger kind of, if Ginger is going to Wrath, that's probably his best turn to do it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, the rest of the cards in his hand are also just going to get hit by the Wrath. So might as well just do it, get it out the way, put yourself in the most advantaged position you can. And now you're free to continue playing your cards.
It's kind of back into the same spot as well, where it's like, can I get my opponent to rely on this Goblin Bombardment and then get rid of it? And honestly, it kind of accidentally fell into that spot where, you know, Reed takes a turn to put out a Goblin Bombardment and then follow it up. And it's just great recognition from Ginger going, oh, I don't need mine. You need
really
yours.
Disciplined play from Ginger here. Waited until Reed cracked his fetch, used the Elegant Parlor to surveil, thinking that he was going to get to, you know, Fable away what was on top. And then hit him with the Celestial Purge.
Really nice turn here from Reed as well. Last card, Pyromancer.
I wonder if this is going to be a hasted Pyromancer. Doesn't look like it.
Uh-oh.
That's
I know what this turn feels like.
It's the 4th mana for Ginger. And we are clicking cards in the graveyard.
Yeah. This is a disaster for Reed. I think that there's a bit of a problem here now for Reed.
Yeah, this is
Not it.
it's a tough one, and a Lightning Helix on a stick about to do some work.
It feels more like a steel baseball bat rather than a stick.
Yeah. And Ginger is just drawing nothing but gas. He gets to play this Voice of Victory, just relax,
Copy it.
turn off. Yeah, copy it. Just swing with so much power. I mean, I guess if Reed drew a Wrath, he'd be back in this game. But even then, he'd be back in a way that's like
Kind of.
disadvantaged. Yeah.
Yeah. It buys you a turn, and then you need to draw something off of that turn.
Yeah.
It just feels like too much to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, Reed's doing a good job of buying as much time as he can. But that's not very much time.
Now it's Ginger's turn to take the time.
Yep. And he's got a decent amount of it, like 8 minutes. Reed's got like 3. Ginger trying to choose if he wants to play out this Ghost Vacuum or not.
I think maybe the Wrath came to mind.
Yeah, the Wrath comes to mind. Also, Ghost Vacuum represents a +1/+1 counter when we have Showdown in our hands. But also, Ginger has 4 lands. So I think there's also a consideration of what if I just go land the next 2 turns? This lets me, start to build towards the tap ability, but
I think that
hiding
Reed
it.
might have drawn the card that could get him out of this.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess this is going to be a hasted Flage.
This is a hasted
not
Flage
playing,
from a
not
regular
playing
Flage.
not playing the Ghost Vacuum. Really fighting Ginger now.
Oh my gosh. Wait, could he have done anything about this? Because you play the Flage dies, and then you spend the mana and cast it from the graveyard. I don't think there's anything you could do about this. Like, even if you had the Ghost Vacuum, you don't have priority to use it.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what Ginger was considering, was that Reed just had enough mana that it wouldn't matter.
Hang on. Yeah, that one's got to get clicked. Let's save the other 2 back. Oh my gosh. This is one of the biggest turnarounds I have ever seen from a single card.
Yeah, that is a huge draw, an unbelievable draw for Reed. And now, I think if I'm Ginger, I am probably playing for the clock more than anything.
This is so hard to win now.
Yeah, I mean, truly though, Reed's got a minute and 57 seconds. I mean, all he has to do from here is click Flage every turn, but you do have to do it enough turns, you know? And Ginger is also gaining life from his own Flage. Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of have to hold back the Voice of Victory. I think otherwise you're just basically dead to removal spells. Swing in, get rid of the Voice of Victory.
Blocks.
Take the block.
Yeah, this is, I think, the tricky turn here from Reed Duke is just playing Flage for the sake of it. I don't think he has another option. It just kind of hurts to play it for the sake of it versus playing the Seasoned Pyromancer from the graveyard. And so that to me is really the tricky one. I'm playing the Flage personally because it's the biggest thing, but
well, I'm playing the Flage, I think, because I'm afraid of graveyard hate, but also the Seasoned Pyromancer with the Ocelot Bride is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, both options now look kind of rough for Misplaced Ginger.
Yeah, now Seasoned Pyromancer is going to help fill up Ginger's yard, and Ghost Vacuum can take care of that Flage in the yard. So it's not horrible.
Like you said, playing for clock as well.
Yeah, playing for clock. Oh, and then an Arena of Glory. Arena of Glory is a huge draw for Ginger here.
Yeah, Reed seeing this Ghost Vacuum too, that's got to be heartbreaking.
Oh, Celestial Purge, though.
Not bad.
I mean, Ginger's still a couple cards off.
He's got a minute on the clock.
Yeah. And none of these creatures have 2 power. So can't even, like, get rid of the Pyromancer in this exchange. Chooses to prioritize the cats. I think this is reasonable. Reed has no shortage of red permanents. Now, we're also... we're like 1 away from Ghost Vacuum activating, but Ghost Vacuum activating isn't even like good, really.
Not yet, it's
Ginger,
not. Yeah.
Ginger taking out one of the elemental tokens, gaining 3 life. Reed 50 seconds to go. Suddenly his turns are a lot harder than just click on Flage.
Yeah. I think
doesn't really have time to do a lot.
Honestly, the clock was a great plan for Misplaced Ginger. I don't even think he needs it anymore. I think he just walked away with more stuff at the end of the day. It was the Ghost Vacuum peeling away the Flage option from Reed Duke, and that completely it cut the rope that Reed was hanging on. Like, that was the way for him to climb back up into this game, and now it's been land after land, it feels like. It's just too much stuff. And Misplaced Ginger, just well-managed resources, doesn't hit a ton of land in this one, so just continuing to have reasonable turn after reasonable turn. And that's hung on for the entirety of it.
Right, as Ginger continues to just devour the graveyard of Reed Duke, even exiling it there with the charm. Now we've got Ghost Vacuum mana if we ever want it. We can Showdown, we get a Surveil. And Reed only 40 seconds left on the clock here.
How are you supposed to deal this much damage in that short of time?
Well, I don't know that you do.
You're supposed to do it with a strange combo deck that pops off and gets the job done.
Definitely not
Reed.
Arid Mesa. That's definitely not how you do it.
Reed bricks again, and that is going to do it. Misplaced Ginger, 6-0 on the tournament.
6-0.
Sends Reed to
Undefeated.
4-2 as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sent Reed down to 4-2. Is the undefeated champion of this Magic the Gathering online creator showdown. Really showing, why Ginger is the modern guy. He is out there grinding this format and clearly knows his stuff.
Yeah, it's always like a pleasure to watch him play because of how strong of a player he is. He's gonna find ways to navigate those spots. I do have to highlight the credit on Misplaced Ginger. He's always playing. It feels like he's always got a strong position for it. But golly, it is tough to call away from Reed Duke on that one. The only thing I think that you could even possibly debate is on that last turn, the Seasoned Pyromancer versus the Flage from the graveyard. In my head, it's so natural to go for the value option there and just take it. What are they going to do? It's a value option. But it's so close to that end of the game. In my head, I go, do you even need this value at this point? I feel like you need the stuff that's in play. That feels like what's going to wrap up the game at that point, because I just don't want to give the time over to Misplaced Ginger. He's been sitting at 5 land for the whole game. That means he has options to keep going from this point. He has to brick for you to close, at which point it doesn't matter which one you go for. So it's like, you got to get the big thing in play and hope to make the most of it. I think it's the only point that you could possibly debate what Reed was doing during that match.
Yeah, again, I think Reed, is not going to go off of whatever feels correct or feels most intuitive. He's going to go off of what feels like the best percentage play. And I think when you do the Ocelot Pride Pyromancer line, you end up making this huge board of tiny creatures, and the number of outs Ginger has to that are a lot smaller. Now he needs to both have the card that deals with Flage in the yard, because that's still a problem, and also have the ways to deal with this wide board of creatures. And I think Reed just thought about it and thought, hey, that's like a hard series of cards for Ginger to get to. It's not impossible. Obviously, Ginger won, but it's difficult. Whereas if you bring the Flage back, that's one thing you have to deal with, right? That is, you have so many ways to handle that. You gain 3 life, you deal 3 to Ginger there, but then there's a whole bunch of singular cards that can just deal with that.
Yeah, it's really important, again, to highlight that the best play doesn't always have the result you want. And sometimes you can make a bad play and get a great result from it. I've done that plenty of times. Look how many tournaments I've come away with just because I play bad. It's totally easy to do it. As we can take a look at the standings now, which we're wrapped up now after 6 rounds. You can see where players sit. If you were curious about what matches they were playing, it's, they have those VODs on their Twitch that you can check out. And with those standings now, we start to see what players are available, are closing up with that 4-2 or better record. That's where that prize point was. 4-2 or greater is going to yield you a prize. And just as we saw coming into this one, Misplaced Ginger, $1,250 for that first place. And Lucas, they had to battle off at some point too. Walks away with $750 for that runner-up place. But everything alongside that, it feels like that Modern, it continues to be a format that it gets defined, but as you continue to have that definition, you keep coming away with new styles that come into play. And that's honestly kind of what I'm looking at here. Like BFG bringing a completely different deck to the table, had to face off against Misplaced Ginger as well. Almost walked away with the match too. He blew out the game number 1. And then in game number 2, he got blown out. And then game number 3, it felt like it could have been so close in so many of these spots. I loved watching some of these matches today. I'm curious about your side of things too. We couldn't watch every single player. We couldn't watch every single match. Was there someone, one of your favorites, that you were rooting for coming into this event? Someone that you really wanted to see perform?
Someone who I was really rooting for, who I'm happy to see make top 8, who I wasn't really aware of, honestly, before this event, is this number 4 slot Bathroom Brews. And the reason I was rooting for them was because they brought a deck that I'm very interested in. I really wish we could have covered, which was their Simic mid-range deck. I mean, this is using Coiling Oracle, Thibblethip, Ice Fang Quaddle, really sick deck that I played around with a lot when I saw it submitted into the the deck lists and was really hoping to see it do well. So I'm really glad to see that they pulled away a 4-2 record, as well as all of these other incredible players. I mean, there's Travis Brown again, got all the way to 4-2 with Hammer. Never let the dream die, Travis. Never let the dream die. You're not delusional. You can play Hammer in Modern.
That deck, I lose that deck every single time I play against it, so I see why it's still getting played and why it's out there doing the battle. Corey B coming into 8th place here as well. He's been on the show a couple times to cast. He was able to put up a fight in this one. He's playing Goryo's Vengeance in this one. So many different deck lists were available in Modern in this event too. Like, this is Magic Online. You have access to anything that you want, essentially. You just go and you get it. You know, it's not like you got to walk around and trade people for the cards. Oh, I gotta find the, and you just walk, you play with whatever you have in your collection. You can go find it in your collection. That's what Magic Online is about. It's availability to everything and availability to tournaments pretty much at any single time you want. Despite that, so many different decks coming into the event. I love Modern. I've loved to see it. I'd say maybe I was a grumpy old man when it first got released, but it's been a long time since then. And so now that it's old enough, it feels right for me. So with that, now we're wrapping up this tournament. We're coming out of round number 6. We've seen the prizes available. We've seen who's earned these prizes for this one, but it doesn't mean we're done with shows for the Creator Showdown. Coming up on September 13th, this is where we have another event taking place where it's a battle of trivia, wit, and card knowledge. It's going to be taking place on twitch.tv/magiconline and live on YouTube as well. youtube.com/@officialmagiconline. Make sure you're checking it. September 13th, we're having another Creator Game Showdown with, of course, me as your host, unfortunately for you. Niall, thank you so much for joining us as we come to this one and we're closing things out. Do you have any final words you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really glad to have gotten to cover some really incredible Magic from incredible Magic players. We saw very complex plays and lines and things that surprised and amazed us, and it's really cool to get to see the depth of skill that this game requires to consistently win the way that these players do. So just truly happy to be here commentating it. Thank you for sharing the booth with me. I've had a great time.
It's been a pleasure having you. From everyone here at the production crew, for myself, for Niall, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And don't forget again, September 13th for a Creator Game Showdown.